This is a really interesting painting. Well, that was the only thing I got out of these 5 episodes of Sonic X. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sonic Host Coast to Coast. My name is Radrey. I am joined today, as always, by Malzilla and our special guest, Neon. Introduce yourself, Neon. You're new to the show. We would like to know a little bit about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Neon the Fox. I also go by Walter. I'm on the YouTube channel called Botluck Productions. I run a lot of names. I review just different things. I kind of got started with Sonic by reviewing Sonic Adventure, then went to SA2, then Sonic X, then the OVA. Recently, I've been doing a lot of the Digimon stuff, and although my next video will be a after action video on the Tyler and Anime Tyler in Tyler, Texas, followed by a review of Discotech's release of the Digimon movies.
Nice.
Which is connected to Sonic because they did get the Discotech did get Sonic X as a release.
Yeah, I do remember a lot of people were clamoring for that.
The Discotech release for the US is a standard def, so you on 2 Blu-rays you get the entire show. Unfortunately, you don't get the Japanese dub. That's a separate DVD Blu-ray, which angered me, but that's beside the point.
I will say, having gone, 10 or so episodes into the Sonic X, I would be very interested in seeing I know that's probably never going to happen due to certain legalities and, certain fans' reactions, but I wouldn't mind a modern redoing of the dub with the modern cast. Now, of course, Mike is still there, so that wouldn't change, but some of his line reads in those early episodes were really rough, and I think he probably would love another crack at them, especially now that he's, got the character down to a T, and then some.
That's true with a lot of anime. The first reads are generally I've seen it with a lot of the Digimon stuff. The first couple of episodes are not the best. Once the actors get in the role, it improves. But yeah, it would be interesting to see how the current cast would deal with doing Sonic X. If only like one episode, just to give us a what if.
Oh, for sure.
So, what did you think of this episode, or these episodes, I should ask?
Well, without giving my reviews away, I will say, again, I'm not a super huge fan of Sonic X, but these, for the most part, were relatively enjoyable episodes for me.
Neon?
For me, they're kind of like filler episodes. They're plot-wise, with the exception of episode 11, they're more or less inconsequential, and that does include the baseball episode where Chaos Emerald gets found.
I was gonna bring that up. Well, we'll save that when we get to that episode. But yeah, I wanted to mention that. So okay, well, first off, everyone, again, thank you for joining us again in our constant reviews of Sonic X. Apologies for taking so long to get this episode out. I was on vacation in Hawaii last week, so nothing got done. So if you want to blame anyone, you can blame me. But again, as always, do follow us on social media, Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, join our Discord, join the conversation, Sonic Hosts Coast to Coast.
All right, without further ado, let's dive into our first episode here. Our first episode, episode 7, is, in English, Party Hardly, or in Japanese, Daikonsen, or Daikonsen? I gotta get the pronunciation right. I'm sure there's somebody making fun of me in the comments, but all the pronunciation of all these. Anyway, Daikonsen Kurisu Homo Party. Giant, or in English, that's Giant Free for All, Chris's Home Party. This episode is directed by Oyamada Keiko. Previously directed the episode Missile Wrist Rampage. And it's written by Hojo Chinyatsu. She's best known for 2024's Bakuage Sentai Boon Boomger. I don't know what that is. And 1998's all-purpose cultural cat girl Nuku Nuku. Sounds like porn. But anyway, and 20. I'm sorry.
cultural.
What?
I know. I think I know that.
You know
I think
that
I know
one.
that anime.
Any
I
good?
don't think it's. I think it's one of those. It's classic '90s, from what I've understand. If it's what I think it is, but
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the pedigree between about all these, episodes, just so I can get an idea of like what makes Sonic X, right? The other credit, yes.
I mean, I tried to do that with when I did my review. Like, are there any consistent writers? As far as I could tell, it's just Shotgun. Ugh.
Right.
But then again, at the time I went off of the Sonic X wiki. For all I know, that's incredibly outdated. So,
Yeah, the other writing credit I have here is 2011's Infinite Stratos. Do you know of any of these, Malzilla?
None of them,
None of them stick out.
jump to mind.
All right.
Yeah.
I am not much of an anime person, so just bear with me.
Infinite Stratus sounds familiar. Why does it sound so familiar?
It does sound quasi-familiar.
Okay, now I see. It was the I don't know if I should say this anime's name. It's a proto. I know what this is.
Okay. All right. You don't want to say the anime's name?
Let me. Because of the implication.
Oh,
there's an implication with the title that I don't want. That I'm a bit hesitant on saying the what it's a proto of.
Really? How about this? We'll save this toward the end if we even. Well, now you're gonna get everybody wanting to know. They're gonna be in the comments, they're gonna asking, "What is it? What is he talking about?"
I put it in the.
In the what?
I put it in the text chat. Text chat.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see if it's appropriate. If this video will get suppressed or not. I don't even know what that is.
I'm not familiar with that one.
What's that?
I am not going to say anything more. That is
okay.
Up to you.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I'll dive into the synopsis. So, in this episode, Chris tells Cream and Cheese to stay put in his room while he heads off to school. But at the moment he's gone, the two quickly get bored. They sneak out into the balcony, and Cream ends up picking flowers, which catches the attention of Amy and Tails. Tails realizes that Cream might be missing her mother, which prompts Sonic, who overhears the conversation, to rush off after spotting a Meadow poster. Meanwhile, Chris's mom, Lindsay, decides to throw a party and agrees to invite her brother Sam Speed. Cream and Cheese see all this unfold and get excited too. After school, Chris learns that his teacher, Mr. Stewart, plans to visit his house under the guise of getting to know his students. But really, he wants an autograph from Lindsay. Back at the mansion, Cream and Cheese continue exploring, trying to help the party set up, and Chris and his grandfather Chuck scramble to hide Cream and Cheese before Stewart arrives. Things get messy when the duo accidentally wreck the kitchen, leading to a series of close calls as Chris and Chuck try to keep their presence secret. Things take a turn when Lindsay leaves suddenly for a film shoot, feeling guilty about being a neglectful mom. Cream sees her crying, which hits her hard. Later, when Stewart and Sam arrive, Cream accidentally reveals herself during an emotional outburst, calling out Chris for not appreciating that he can talk to his mom unlike her. The truth nearly comes out, but Mr. Tanaka manages to pass it off as a ventriloquism act. Eventually, Chuck and Tanaka suggest bringing Ella in on the secret, and when they do, she not only accepts them, but bonds with Cream. The episode wraps on a heartfelt note, with Cream giving Chris a flower crown as a sign of forgiveness, with Sonic explaining that she only gives those to people she likes. Chris is touched, and the group breathes a sigh of relief after a chaotic but meaningful day. End of episode. So,
Yep.
Thoughts?
I actually have a surprising amount of thoughts. Like, this is, by all definition, a filler episode. But and I have to give it credit, it finds a very interesting way to focus on two interesting, characters that really just would not typically be the focus. And it's Cream And Lindsay, now again, as we've talked about in previous episodes, factor in when this show came out, right off the heels of Advance 2. So Cream, by nature, is the newest character to the Sonic franchise. So it's natural that she's there and they're giving some focus. But I thought they did an interesting stuff with her. She is the youngest character, I think, even though they've kind of thrown ages out for various reasons, but she's still, by general, the youngest character. So her being in this whole new world, separate from her mom, they make some interesting, analysis there. But surprisingly enough, the character that kind of actually stood out was Lindsay Thorndike, because Lindsay again is this very high-profile actress, and this is something I wanted to ask you, Roger, because you have experience in Japanese, cinema, in the movie industry over there. Is one of the big things is Lindsay, like, she tries making Chris breakfast in the morning. She's absolutely terrible at it. It's kind of the classic, she means well, but she can't cook worth a damn, but she's trying. And then, she's like, oh, let's have a party. Like, she clearly loves her son desperately and dearly. But then she gets the call and it's like, hey, we want you to star in this movie. Which is like, you figure for an actress like her, that's no big thing. It's like, oh, we're going to start filming tomorrow. And she's like, oh, okay, well, then I'll see you guys tomorrow. And she's like, well, no, we need you to come to this press thing tonight, like right now. And she's like, well, I got this whole thing. And it's like, they're like, no. She's like, okay, fine, I'll go. And she's all really sad because she's like, I'm a terrible mother. I've set up all this stuff and now I have to bail. She's really, Cream overhears this. So Cream, and I think Chris, as the episode goes, he tries to play off, like, he's trying to, make sure they don't think Cream is real. Like, so he's kind of shoots his mouth off a little bit, not in a malicious way, but Cream kind of interprets it at, and Cream's like, no, your mom loves you, blah, blah, blah. But it was kind of I'm rambling a little bit, but I wanted to talk to you about Radrey because, like,
yeah, what's up?
If, they portray her as this big starlet. So, you think of the big Hollywood leading actresses, and she's kind of in that vein. And the fact that they say, I kind of wonder, is this like a Hollywood versus a Japanese cinema thing where it's like, if the star is big enough, is they say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow, I'm doing this thing tonight, the studio will back off and, they won't want to upset their star. This one feels like they're controlling her. So I was just kind of wondering, is this more of like a reflection of the Japanese cinema industry where, the actors are more beholden to the studio contracts than more so. I mean, I imagine it's similar in the US if the star isn't, that popular, but it seems like she's a pretty well-known starlet.
That's
so I figured that would
really
give her
true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I guess if you were a big enough star, you could basically tell the whole production to fuck off, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of one of the things I'm watching. I'm thinking, I'm like, on one hand, this is this emotional moment for her. She's feeling down about that she's failing as a mother, but she's a really good actress. So I'm thinking, like, well, if you're as popular as they've led us to believe, shouldn't you literally tell the studio to fuck off for like 24 hours? I'll see you there. I'm doing this first. But maybe she's not like mega, Jennifer Aniston or who. God, I don't even know who's the big Hollywood starlet nowadays. Whoever,
It depends on the company and the actor. I'm just going off from a video I saw in Ultraman Tiga where they were talking about one of the actors was in a boy band, and I think the company was called Johnny's, held a lot of control over that one actor.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I figured, like, that may be a reflection of the Japanese media as opposed to the US, production. So that was kind of one of the things I've always tried to think about is, a lot of us are Western audience looking at a Japanese production and not realizing like a lot of this stuff is written with a Japanese mindset as opposed to a U.S. Western mindset. So there's sometimes there's like, well, like this case is like, well, she's a big enough star, she should have some sway, but maybe that's not necessarily the case over in Japan than it would be in the U.S. So that was kind of like my thought, but I thought it was an interesting like kind of thing to mull and think about.
No, that's actually a really interesting point. I never thought about that. Yeah, because that's true.
I told you I had a really interesting thought about this episode.
I will say in your defense, there is an episode later where she's willing to just leave the production site because her son's sick. Okay. So the consistency is
flimsy. Okay. No, there is some truth to that.
Consistency with Sonic is never going to be
right. Consistency with Sonic, they're like oil and vinegar, but yeah.
The one consistent thing about Sonic is that it is inconsistent. So, but yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing, that would be fun to talk about, kind of in.
Well, I got something on that. If unless Neon's got something to say about this episode, if you have any clear thoughts.
A couple things. One, by the way, I got the Infinite Stratos thing wrong. It's not a proto; it's something else. Okay. Second, about the ages, they do bring up the ages of the characters.
Oh, from earlier, yes.
They do eye catch cards, and one of the stats they list is the age.
Okay.
This is only in the Japanese dub.
Yeah.
So that was omitted in the English. For me,
there was actually really interesting. Just not to dive in too much, but like the whole flashback. Tails has this little flashback of him, like seeing Cream make a little flower crown. Like in the Japanese version, it's a longer scene. Like you see him walking down the road. And then in the US version, they cut out literally half that and just have him just appear in the scene. So a lot of kind of weird editing choices.
There are some weird editing choices, not just pacing, but some of the things they removed are edited for weirdness.
Let's call it what it is. 4 kids being 4 kids.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm really on the fence of they probably just edited that way because the way television operates, the way they have to put in commercials and the way they have to put in bumpers and things like that. I'm pretty sure. If I had to spend money on, or if I had to put money down on it to bet, but they're all. I mean, I don't know. I guess like I've heard like what did they say? Like, the reason why they took out all the English words is so they could make it international, of course. What was it?
That's the funny thing is like, half of Sonic's lines in X seem like he's speaking English.
Well, yeah, in the Japanese
generic. Yeah, it's Japanese, just typical, like, U.S. American sayings like, okay, let's do this. It makes me laugh, not gonna lie.
So, one of the things I wanted to do for this was see the show in French.
Okay.
That may seem odd, but according from what I've read, the French dub of Sonic X is pretty much accurate to the Japanese dub. Okay. I don't know why, but the reason I wanted to look up the French dub was, from stories I've read, when TMS sent the masters to 4 kids, one of the things they did was they airbrushed out the English.
Right.
And I was thinking, okay, was that also sent to the French production? Because if it's been airbrushed there, then that tells me everyone received this so that whatever language they could write in their own words. Which is fairly common. A lot of films that see international release, if it says like English at the start of the film, it might be in another language in another country. This can cause weird problems. Yeah, this can cause problems in, say, Amazon releases where They just have the master, but they don't have any of the words. So it comes up with like 5 seconds of just a blank screen. It's like, what's going on here? Did they censor something? Well, no, it's just they got lazy with the localization.
Well, I don't know. One thing I've noticed, I should probably say it here. One thing I've noticed between like these episodes is how different the music is. Like in the 4Kids dub, and then in like the sub, like it's almost like a completely different show. And I don't know. I'm starting to like side with the dub here because it's like I don't really understand. I mean, it's really kind of funny, right? Like a horror movie, right? They say like a great horror movie is one that has really good music that can really like pull you in. And it's the same thing here with the dub. It's like I don't know what sort of emotional beat that they're trying to hit. Because like especially like in like the what's that the next episode, not next episode, but the Amy episode on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
There's really weird like stingers and musical cues that are like, how am I supposed to feel in this moment? Where like they have like this really like the Amy one seems to mostly have a lot of this just like sentimental music in the background, and it just often leads me to be confused to how to feel. But I don't know. That's my overall impression. I think with this one in particular, I'm not a fan of this episode. I don't really like it. I could do without this episode. I don't need to see it again. But my understanding, Neon, was this your first episode? Was this the first one you ever saw?
Yes.
Okay.
Back in I think it was 2006. I remember watching 4Kids. At the time, I wanted to watch Kirby because they advertised it. I don't know how I heard about Sonic X. That's in the ether. But it also doesn't help that it was Saturday morning, and I have no idea when that's on, because it's like, okay, is this on Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, or Disney? It's on 4Kids. Okay, what channel is that? Well, it's on Fox, but you have to wake up early right after the Farmers News. But before they go over to Fox, it's like, okay, how do I watch it? Saturday morning. There's a reason you don't see it anymore. But I remember hyped up for Sonic X and thinking, oh boy, going from Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, we're going to have an amazing show. And the first episode is this episode. And it's just, what is going...
You go from the high octane of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 to this. Yeah, that's a bit of a whiplash.
Yeah. Where's Eggman? Where's action? Why is Sonic not present? What is going on? Who's this Cream? Oh, Cream was in Sonic Adventure. No, she wasn't. She's in the director's cut. Why?
Wait, she's in the director's cut?
Yes. In Sonic Adventure director's cut, I think it was after a certain mission, the camera will actually pan up and you will see Cream fly by.
Oh, you're right. It is about like an Easter egg and a half. It's like...
Yeah. That wasn't the only Sonic X Easter egg they did. In the GameCube port, if you did mission mode, there are certain missions where they're like, collect enough rings and go to a signpost. Some of the signposts are advertising Sonic X.
Huh.
That I didn't see.
I didn't know that either. Huh.
It got exchanged in the later releases because obviously Sonic Advance and Sonic X aren't really
canon.
But they're there in the GameCube. Yeah. My thoughts on this episode is, on one hand, they did an amazing job with Cream because without Blaze, Cream is kind of how do you write this character? You know, she's not really you can write her as a damsel in distress, but that's what Amy is for. You can't really write her as the second player easy mode because that's what Tails is technically.
Right.
How do you she's not really action.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do you add her without Blaze or another thing? And
you mean like cream or like cheese? Because there's really been no
like cheese. You could kind of work because Chow, but cream, it's like, how do you? And just a forewarning for later episodes, they don't really use cream and cheese that much outside of Greek chorus. She's
Oh, yeah.
really not a character in this. It gets weird with some episodes later on, but really, even when they adapt Adventure, she's not really important, despite making a cameo in the director's cut, which is very weird. But here they did a good job of using her as a juxtaposition with Chris. Because here you have a character who she misses her mother, she's in a foreign place, and here you have Chris who, quite frankly, does not give two shits about his parents. He's kind of a brat.
Tell me
and
I know.
It's like Chris is really a dick when you think about it. And to see that juxtaposition seeing that juxtaposition between the two, and to know that his parents really do love him, and he's just treating them like this, and having Cream explode at Chris. That's good writing. That's good. You've done some good. TMS, you did an amazing job both using Cream and Chris. Can we get more of this? No? Okay. It's a good episode. Unfortunately, this is Sonic X. Why are we bothering with Chris Thorndike and Cream? This is not...
Where's Sonic? Oh, he's off getting flowers.
Yeah, right.
And harassing Sam. I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to defend that, because that was just, like, Sonic, again, coming from a Western, viewing of Sonic growing up on Adventure Zone SatAM, where Sonic is at his best when he's just a piece of shit. Like, he's just, like, the trickster, like, I'm going to make this one guy's life miserable. And just that scene of him, like, just, like, kind of, he's in the trees, he's just waving, like, "Sup, man? Fuck you." No one's
and the fact that everyone else except Ella and Sam are in on the take kind of makes it like, oh, look at this delusion. Look at this. It's almost like a prank show. All we need is Johnny Knoxville to come out.
I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, and welcome to Jackass.
Yeah.
That would actually work a lot.
That's true. He's almost kind of like, the host of the show. Like, he doesn't really add much to it. Or, like, it doesn't seem like he does. Because he's always, like, hanging out either, like, on the bottom of the plane, as we see later in episode, or... Because I'd like to believe that
Kill him on the roof.
Yeah, or on the roof or something. And most of the episodes, or at least in this first season, a lot of it is just, where is Sonic? Where is this character? Like, yeah, it's kind of about him, isn't it? But I don't know.
He's aura farming.
I think like later on, like even Tails and Amy are like, Sonic just does whatever. We're just
here because we're part of the cult, That's just us.
Yeah, it's just we're just his cheerleaders. He'll appear when he appears. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what can I say about this show? I mean, because I know that Yuji Naka on Twitter has said things like, "This is quintessential Sonic," but it's like when I'm looking at this and I'm watching this, right? And I'm like, I'm watching all these robots and I'm watching all these other things going on in the show, and I'm like, I don't remember this robot. I mean, this is never used again. They never talk about Chuck or Chris or any of these other characters. I mean, maybe Station Square, because it appears in Sonic Adventure, but I don't think they ever go back to Station Square after...
in the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion, joking, they do go back to Station Square because it's still being rebuilt because, yay, the government.
Oh, okay. Well, I stand corrected. Because, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, let's say, like, for example, Mario, right? Mario has, like, a set of things that are, like, familiar to what makes Mario. Like, Mushroom Kingdom, I don't know. Actually, no. Maybe that's a bad comparison, the more I think about it. Because they're both pretty bland, but...
You bring that up. That in the first or second episode, they do talk about some of the other worlds. There's a offhand comment where a character asks, "Where are you from?" And Cream does respond, "Oh, we're from Green Hill something," if I remember.
Really?
I've seen some of these episodes in Japanese a while back.
I was gonna say I didn't catch that in any one because we've been watching the dub and the sub just for fun comparisons, but I don't remember them referencing any of the the typical zones.
Right.
Bear in mind, this is from this is a memory from 5 years ago. For all I know, it could be a mistranslation from a YouTube edit. From what I remember, she did say something like, "We're from Green Hill," and that was about it. But I don't know if that was a mistranslation or a mislocalization. For all I know, they're from Ohio.
Yeah.
Springfield, really.
I don't know. To me, this episode is a lot of just, as you guys said, filler. What are the? I have 2 notes on this show or this episode in particular, just 2. Neon, you had something to say?
I wanted to say about the music. When you brought up the horror, when I was watching this, my thought was, why does this sound familiar? And the only thing that came to my mind was Resident Evil.
Okay.
And after that thought came to my mind, my immediate thought was, oh, one of Chris's uncles is just going to be Albert Wesker coming in, just being like, don't open that door, Chris.
But that'd be a lot more entertaining than what we got. But yeah.
That's true.
Okay, actually, no, I guess I got about 5 notes here. Anyway, yes, Malzilla.
I want to say kind of my thoughts is like, words. I just had it in my head, brain fright. Okay, so, this by all means is a filler episode, and like not necessarily a good filler episode either. That being said, like my initial grade was a classic Sonic Coast to Coast rating of it's fine, but I'm not gonna run out to I'm not gonna run out to like go see it. That being said, when I started thinking about like Chris's mom and her status as a movie star, it actually got a little bit more enjoyable. Like the thoughts in my thoughts and musings and kind of my analysis kind of made the episode more enjoyable for me. So, yeah, I kind of bumped this up to it's good. Is this an episode that you desperately need to go see? No, I wouldn't think so, but it's still pretty solid. I think it's not the dumb Intelligente robot bad.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was such an easy episode they could have written, and they did everything wrong.
Oh, did you listen to our review of that episode? I went off like on a 5-minute rant. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that was the episode I used as an example of how do you write Chris? It is so easy. You could have written it as Chris's first day to school, and it gets stolen by Eggman. It is real easy. They messed it up.
Yeah.
How? The competency of these writers confuses me.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. Okay, actually, I got something to say about that. Because I don't know. One thing I understand about Sonic is the games really do dictate, what is it that we see in this universe. Of course, we had like this weird sort of power struggle with, Sega of America and Sega of Japan about who gets to say what and, communication errors. But a lot of what seems to, be the standard of what Sonic is what's seen in the games. So I get the impression that, like, the people who made this series, they're kind of given this, like, they weren't given many notes, or they weren't given very much. And so they were just kind of like, well, what's in the video game? And they're like, well, you can't really tell a story that way. Or, well, I don't know, this is all we really know how to do in terms of how to make an anime or how to make a story. And
because
so,
really, if you think about it, this was Sega of Japan and Japan side of the company's first real, outside of the OVA, this is kind of like in, the Shogakukan manga, but this is kind of one of like their first attempts to like really expand the brand. Because really, if you think about it, by this time, the US had put out 3 television shows. and well into the Archie run. So like Sega America had pretty much said, okay, we know how to do the expanded media universe of Sonic, and are they all interconnected? No, not really, but they're out there and we're making money off of it. The brand is being promoted, the brand is out there, while like they're just kind of like, games. We're gonna try making this, show. Any ideas? No, not really.
What's weird to me is TMS, who pretty much worked on the show. They are a subsidiary of Sega. So it wasn't like Sega going to them saying, "Oh, can you do this, this, this?" No, this is pretty much Sega saying, "You do this, this, and this." And going off of from what I've heard about the 4Kids voice actors, Sega had a lot of control over what you can and can't do.
I have heard that.
Because the impression I always get is that they're really cryptic when it comes to their notes. At least that's what I understand. Or at least what I guess Ian Flynn has said, and like other people we've interviewed for Sonic Historian, Chris Stid has said that they don't seem to be very descriptive, which probably makes everything very difficult. How to produce a show or a game or whatever.
It might just be that they're trying to be vague so they don't, mess up the creative juices or something.
Oh,
but
boy,
my understanding, as someone who's commissioned art, you kind of have to be specific. If you are vague, you are not going to get what you want. You have to be specific. Otherwise, you end up with
what you get. Like that's what you asked for.
I would say, in that commission analogy, because I think you're right on you hit the nail on the head, is that unless the artist you're commissioning knows, like, unless you've done business with them a lot and they kind of know what you like when you first start out a business relationship, you have to be specific, and then as that relationship develops, you can kind of become less specific because you figure they know what you like by then. So, but yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah, this is why certain directors work with specific people, because they know how they work and what they expect.
Well, like directors and actors. I mean, like Christopher Nolan. Old what's his face? From Kill Bill. Fuck, why is the name escaping me?
Thurman Merman.
Tarantino?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thurman Merman and Tarantino. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like they all have like James Gunn is another modern example. It's like you see all the same people in a James Gunn film. Like they work with the people they know because they get them. So, the relationship is, really easy to work with because they know how to direct them, and the actor knows how to take direction from them. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
I guess I could pivot a little bit here. In terms of like what you were talking about earlier, when you were talking about how the differences between Japanese productions and American productions, I think what that probably is, because like generally, like I can tell you, when you're starting a band in America, it's all done because everybody believes in terms of like the music. They believe in, the name, right? And so then people can get used to playing together. Whereas in Japan, it's usually more of a thing where it's like you join a company and the company kind of does everything for you. So it's just sort of like, that's why you sometimes get like a lot of these bands in Japan, like J-pop. I mean, you could say the same thing in Korea as well, but it's a little bit different. But in Japan,
Korea's worse.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's an argument for another podcast. But yes,
yeah. Sorry.
No worries. But in Japan in general, it's a lot more manufactured. So this is why sometimes you have like a lot of this talent that come off as kind of uninspired, I guess you could say. Like they're there to do a job and they're there to provide a job, and they all understand what the job is, but the actual, like, I guess you could say, human interaction is kind of missing it's all kind of like more automated and like kind of surgical, I guess is the word I would use. So I imagine that's probably why we get some of these awkward moments in this show, or maybe like just they didn't know what to do or what to provide with some of it. Because like there's certain scenes in this, like what I was mentioning earlier about, or we were talking earlier about how Mr. Stewart keeps looking at like a painting in the room. I imagine he's looking at the painting to like ease the tension or ease the ease the tenseness of the situation. That's the only conclusion I can draw. I don't know. Did somebody here have something to say about the painting he's looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's in the chat, the writing chat. One of the weirdest censorship I've seen with this was that painting.
Okay.
In the Japanese dub, it's let's see what it was.
Oh, that is weird.
Japanese,
for our listeners out there, he sent a picture of how different that painting is in the dub and the sub. Huh.
Yeah. The Japanese version is apparently based off of a Belgian painting. I forgot the name of it. But when it was
what? I mean, this just looks like shapes, like a bunch of squares on a fucking painting.
It looks like very like 90s industrial, like
modern art. It's
yes.
But when it was localized, I don't know if this was from TMS or 4Kids, the art was changed to just art, just random shapes. The only reason I can think they did this was for international release was copyright issues, because I know some museums get very angry when you start copying their art.
Huh.
And I don't know if that was it's based off of a painting, from what I've read. I don't know if they changed it to try to appease the lawyers or if something else happened. Look, this is the same show that shows Amy's social security card. They were weird with what they showed.
Wait, what? I don't remember this. They show Amy's social security card in this show?
It's in the Japanese dub. It's a few episodes later.
Okay, I'll have to keep my eyes open for this.
There's a reason I say Sonic
security cards. All right.
There's a reason I say Sonic X takes place in Ohio.
Is this the reason? Why? Oh, okay, I guess the joke's over my head. Why? What's the joke behind Ohio and social security cards?
Up until 2006 or 8, the first 3 digits of your social security card indicated what state the card was issued. Now it's all random. But but Sonic X came prior to that. The first 3 digits of Amy's social security card, which has some other unique things of it, indicates that it was issued in Ohio.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's hilarious. Man, I want an Amy Throws identity theft episode now.
To be fair, there's some certain numbers that indicate that that's a fake social security card. So, no, don't contact Social Security saying, hey, this number is invalid. They know. TMS knew.
That's funny.
Okay, well, pivoting.
We got a lot of traction out of this episode.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd get anything because I have like basically only 5 notes. Just to go through my notes here. I don't know why they wrote Mr. Stewart as like such a massive stalker, but he has very creepy stalker vibes, or at least that's what I get from this show.
I mean, he's a spy.
Yeah, he is a spy.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, his whole thing is like, he's clearly like, again, he's not a bad guy, but he's also just kind of an idiot. Again, he's trying to get information for the government. Like the government, it's something that's actually really interesting in like the next 5 or 6 episodes where like the public really starts like, they start calling Sonic by his name. Like people actually like know who he is now. And I always thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm like, they're like, oh, now they've become public figures. And I forget who we had. I think it was the Sonic Historian or one of our other guests had kind of made a fun little comment that, now that like the government, like the people of Station Square know who Sonic is, it makes their relationship with Sonic, especially come the story of Sonic Adventure, much more meaningful because it's like, oh, this guy, we know him. He's been saving our butts for the last, season and a half. So, but yeah, this episode, surprisingly, again, in just terms of quality, it's not great, but there was definitely some fun talking points in
Right.
regards to it.
I give it a 3 out of 5 on the X-Play scale.
Okay.
Worth a watch, but just once. You can skip it on subsequent views.
I gave it a good rating just because, like, it gave me things to think about, which normally it doesn't. So, while the quality is very much it's fine, the fact that it got me thinking about things, like, okay, I'm going to give this a little bit of a bump.
Okay.
Which is more than I can say about the next episode, because the next episode's just really kind of
it's really cut and dry.
like it is the definition of it's fine.
It's
like
filler. Yeah.
More so than it's like, because it's not really filler, because this is like where they clearly like upgrade. Well,
yeah, that's true. They do upgrade their plane. Yeah.
So let's give the breakdown.
Oh, hold on. I got 5 notes I wanted to read about this episode before we do that.
Okay. Okay.
I guess first of all, I give it two glances at that painting that Mr. Stewart looks at out of 5 or out of 10 or whatever. 2. I only give it 2 glances because that's all it deserves. I don't need to look at it more than 2 times. A couple of notes I had. I find it interesting that Mr. Tanaka calls Chris Obobo-chan or Obochama, excuse me. Which means like little prince. I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I know I live in Japan and I speak Japanese okay, but there's still things I learn about this country that I'm like, I guess that's what you would call him. Well, I guess it's like saying Your Majesty.
Well, I guess, again, this is, kind of weird coming from me, stateside. But, from what I know of Japanese honorifics and what I know of, say, what Tanaka is in his, again, I've watched a lot of period piece shows. Like, he's a servant. And, Chris is, like, the young master. Like, think about how Alfred talks to Bruce Wayne. Right, so is Master Wayne, Master, or like usually when he was young it was Master Bruce, and then as he became adult it's Master Wayne. There is specific titles that someone in service would give their employer.
That checks out. That's true. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I guess you were right. He is kind of like based upon like Master Wayne from Batman a lot. I definitely get that.
You bring up Little Prince, and I may be overthinking it, but that almost sounds like a reference to the book, the Little Prince, which makes the whole Sonic X story arc very. There's a connection there, and I may be overthinking it.
No, actually, I think you're onto something there because the Little Prince is actually a really well received in Japan. I don't know why, but like you often see like Little Prince like retrospectives here all the time. It's very odd. I guess other notes that I have is Mrs. Thorndike is a horrible role model for her son. It's not like they're struggling to make ends meet. I mean, that's one thing I wrote. She's doing this modeling work for Vanity, but of course we talked about that a little bit about Japan versus the U.S. I guess before we move on to the very next topic, I did want to talk about Sam Speed for a moment, like with dub versus sub. And I don't know. I don't know if anybody has anything to say about this, but it's just so weird to hear like Sam Speed, in the sub version, where he's like, like, what about Sam Speed? Like you hear the dub version, he's like, hey, I'm Sam Speed. What's going on? Right?
It's
Which version do you like? Maybe I should ask that.
If you're gonna have the hyperactive guy that sounds like he's high on his own supply, go with the dub version. You need
Okay.
him to be the foil. You need him to be the human counterpart to Sonic, and you need him to be hyperactive, almost like, is he using, like, hey Sam, where did the cocaine that you stole, that you impounded? I don't know.
Is there a reason they call you Sam Speed? Are you on speed?
No.
Yeah.
No.
As he
Excuse me,
brushes
I
his
need
nose, as he's like,
Yeah, so Mozilla thoughts. Do you like the dub or the sub version better? Sam Speed.
I like the sub. I think again,
You like how he's more masculine and he takes drugs?
I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, well, I say collectively as the episode is like, for the most part, I've said this before. I prefer the sub actors, except for like, I prefer Mike Pollock's Eggman over to his Japanese voice. But Sam is kind of 6 of one, half in the dozen of the other for me. Again, Lindsay's English, they're giving them that faux British, very posh kind of Northern Atlantic wannabe, British, that style, like, oh darling, like, just this over exaggerated Emma Frost, it kind of makes me laugh.
When you brought that up earlier in the earlier episodes, I was like, she doesn't have a British accent, and then I watched the episode now, it's like, oh, she does.
And it's not so much it's a British accent, it's that American faux British accent, kind of that the debutante kind of like, oh darling. It's like, clearly they're trying to be high class.
Yeah, the rarity thing from.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I'm on the fence. I don't know how I feel about Sam Speed in terms of the dub versus the sub. This version, I feel like the dub worked, but the sub was better in the first episode when we see him. But anyway.
I will say, the Speed Force, they don't do anything in the show. I think they appear once more. They're actually more important in the comic that they did. One of the characters is part of the evil Sonic. Yeah.
That was Ian. Ian, again, in typical Ian Flynn fashion,
Take a drink.
It's more like, hey, look at these concepts that were never used. Let me just have at them.
Again, so easy to write this, and that they didn't. One other thing I'll say, just for all the art majors out there, so they don't come burning half of where I live, like General, I forgot his name from the Civil War. The art piece that they're referencing is composition with red. Yeah. The painting they're referencing is composition with red, blue, and yellow by Piet Mondrian, a Dutch artist. So.
Wow. Okay, I thought I'd never talk about something like this in a Sonic X review, but okay. You learn something every day.
You could be amazed. You could be amazed what Sonic will come up. Next up on the Sonic Trucking podcast, we talk about the next 3 companies in Malaysia that use Sonic as a mascot.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a real thing. You're not lying.
I've actually seen one stateside with Sonic as a mascot.
Right. My other notes here are Sonic he reminds me of Barney the dinosaur sometimes, where he has like this kind of glassy kind of he's kind of unreactive. I don't know. It's a little jarring for me, like watching this version of Sonic for me. It's just, it doesn't seem like he doesn't react at all. I mean, I understand that later in a couple of episodes, like particularly like I guess the what's that one? The one where they're on the boat. That's the one where like he actually has like a breakdown or something. But for the most part, I mean, I understand that like this is the gold standard, I guess you could say, of who Sonic the Hedgehog is. But like to me, it's just sort of like I don't find this character that relatable or interesting. But I don't know.
I think the idea is he's supposed to be laid back and just free and doesn't care.
The wind.
The wind. Well, let's pivot. So then they
yes, let's get to the VF1 Valkyrie.
Yeah,
I
other
was gonna
things.
say, yeah, the Pat Labor episode, basically.
Pat Labor. Who's that?
I was gonna say
Pat
Robotech,
Labor is
the
Macross.
Oh, okay.
because
But
that's
don't.
what
It's not.
basically what the
Yeah,
That's
but not
basically what this
BattleTech.
is.
Don't. We don't want. We don't want Harmony Gold involved. We don't want
No,
them
we don't.
involved.
Okay. I'll have to look that up later. Um, one other
If you
thing I
want
wanted
fun,
to. Yes.
I would say if you ever want fun with weirdness, look up BattleTech, Harmony Gold, Macross, and Robotech. It is a wild legal case.
Okay. All right. The other note I have here is that they play salsa music for Ella now in the dub, which I think is hilarious. I don't know why they feel like we need this, but maybe they need it added. Anyway.
The dub is very excessive with its theme choices.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to that in episode 11.
Oh yes, yes, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know why they did that with Ella. It just the implication makes it worse.
Yeah, and they do that with Mr. Tanaka as well. But anyway, we'll get there when we get to episode 11. Let's dive into the next episode. Episode 8.
Yes.
Satellite Swindle, or Kinkyu Hashin, Exu Tornado. Fucking katakana, man. Anyway, this one's directed by Besho Makoto, best known for directing 2 episodes of 2013's Attack on Titan and 2012's Battleship Yamato, 2199. I don't know. I mean, I know Attack on Titan, but I don't know this other Yamato spinoff.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yamato's famous.
I know
It's
Battleship
like
Yamato, but I don't
Blazers.
know the spin-off of Battleship Yamato, 2199.
It may be a retelling.
Okay.
Yeah, Battleship Yamato got a lot of it's one of those that gets there a reboot remake every 12 years just because it's kind of iconic for the the 70s sci-fi,
Or it's like Gundam where they just continue the story, but it's the side story, or it's the alternate front, or it's the the retirement party before Space Dandy appears.
Right. This one's written by Shiraishi Masahiko, best known for 2009's Taisho Baseball Girls, and actually this is a Sonic writer, most notably for Sonic Riders, Zero Gravity. He was a scenario writer, so we got some Sonic cred here. So it's not just some writer you've never heard of that works on a Sonic project. So the synopsis goes, yes?
It sounds like he started from here and went into the video game writing, but yeah, that's beside the point.
Yeah, maybe they liked him enough to bring him on the team, I guess, or the Sonic team. But anyway, in this
Samuel
episode,
Leroy Jackson, contact him.
What?
I was doing an Avengers joke saying that they just have Samuel Leroy Jackson appear to say you're on the Sonic team.
Oh, right, of course.
I'm here to talk to you about the Sonic team.
Yes. So in this episode, things kick off with Eggman drawing from his robot card deck and unleashing the colossal E90 Super Sweeper, a satellite-sucking menace that blasts off into space and immediately starts vacuuming up every satellite in orbit, crippling global communications and throwing Area 99 into a panic. Eggman's goal, scrap the satellites for robot parts, because why not kill 2 birds with one cosmic vacuum? I think, as he says in the episode, or just two birds with one stone. So back in the Thorndike mansion, everyone's enjoying a calm afternoon when suddenly the TV goes static. Cream and Cheese are devastated, and it turns out Super Sweeper just sucked up the TV satellites too. Bokun shows up with one of the explosive announcements, broadcasting Eggman's evil plan right into their living room. Sonic and Tails take the disguise in the Tornado 2 to stop E90, but it quickly becomes clear that they're outgunned. After a chaotic battle, they barely escape its deadly suction and crash land just shy of the ocean. Back home, Sonic tells Tails the tornado just isn't fast enough and it's time for an upgrade. So cue the montage. Tails and Chuck get to work building a brand new X-Tornado using a Chaos Emerald for power. However, the catch is that too much energy could make it explode, so they'll have to redesign the whole thing from the ground up. Meanwhile, Eggman launches Egg TV, hijacking global airwaves to gloat about his plan to clean the stratosphere. The next day, the sleek new X-Tornado is ready for action. Sonic, Tails, and Chris launch into the sky to confront Super Sweeper once more, and an intense dogfight above the stratosphere. Sonic uses the missile hopping acrobatics to reach the robot. Just as things are looking good, Sonic gets frozen solid from the high altitude. Tails saves the day by creative rerouting a power ring to thaw Sonic out. Recharged, Sonic blasts into the Super Sweeper and tears it apart from the inside, putting an explosive end to Eggman's latest scheme. Back home, Sonic gets a well-earned foot soak, but it gives credit to Tails and Chris for the victory. Amy walks in with the celebratory ice cream, only for Sonic to flinch, clearly still traumatized from his near deep freeze in the sky. End of episode. I want to point out that the inciting moment of this episode is the most Rick and Morty of Rick and Morty episodes. They just want to defeat Eggman because they just all want to watch TV. I just think this is hilarious.
It all got started because Tails, I think, got thrown at the television.
Yeah, because they threw Tails at the television. Like, Cream and Cheese are watching what looks to be like the Sonic X version of Barney the dinosaur, but it's kind of like a little grimace looking guy. I love when they complain oh, the TV's busted. Sonic's like, so it's like, point.
All right, so fellas, thoughts on episode. What episode is this? Episode 8. Satellite Swindle, PQ, Hashin, X Tornado.
Neon, take us away. What do you thought?
Well, looking back on it, and it's kind of what I'm expecting from a show like this. So I'm glad that after the last episode we have something, but the whole thing is just we're just looking at this jet. Okay, it's fine that it's the F-15 or the VF-1 Valkyrie from Macross or the Phoenix Hawk from BattleTech, but
okay.
Look, that design is that concept of a jet going from jet mode to a robot mode. Just about every toy transforming mode, they'll have 3 modes because Macross was that big. But it's just the story is fine. It's just why they did that design of the jet. The only reason I can think they did that was they were trying to leech off of Macross and say, oh, look, we have this reference. The other is, I kind of suspect they did it to simplify animation.
Right.
Because they don't have to animate a propeller, and if they need to move, they can just put JPEG of jet moving, maybe put some afterburner and just call it a Tuesday. I don't know why they changed that design. I'm sure there's some commentary that explains it, but the only other note I can think is they actually use gun effects for Tails' aircraft, so yep, he actually has machine guns on that.
The thing that kind of frustrates me about this, I guess this airplane, right? We never see it again. I mean, I don't know. In terms of I know the show we see it again, but outside of this show, we never see this again. Whereas a staple of the chili dog, we see that over and over again within Sonic, but we never see, if this is quintessential Sonic, why don't we see any of these other things again? I think this is somewhat cool. It doesn't feel Sonic-y, but it's fine. I don't know, Neon, what's your review of this episode?
I mean, story-wise, it's okay. It's just, I don't have anything too wild. It's not good. It's not bad. It's certainly better than the Cream episode, but it's almost forgettable. The only noteworthy thing is, again, the jet.
Yeah.
Because it's so different from every time else they've shown the tornado. Because it's usually a biplane or an ultralight or something, but they went with an F-15.
So how many exploding meth labs or underground Uncle Chuck, labs do you give this out of 5?
I give it 3 Walter White episodes out of 5.
Okay, there we go.
I never watched Breaking Bad.
Really? Okay, I've seen the whole series. Not twice, just once. But how about yourself, Malzo? Thoughts on this episode?
It's fine. I'm gonna say something that's gonna be. I'm gonna say something that's kind of hilarious. There's an often a thought from a lot of that generation of Sonic fans who grew up with Sonic X and the adventure games that they like to criticize, Sega of America's early days as a lot of cash grabs, typical American merchandising.
Did you see Sonic Extreme?
Yes. Here's my thing. Like, the whole thing with the Tornado revamp feels like a blatant cash grab to sell toys that I don't think they ever made, so maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Because here's the thing. Let's look at the Tornado as a character. The Tornado's been a part of Sonic since 90... Like, it debuted in basically in Sonic 2, right? It was...
Right.
I don't remember it in Sonic 1. It wasn't in Sonic CD. Though, they did retcon things where now... It technically was, because you actually do see, like, their Tornado in the Sonic Origins cutscenes, but I digress. The Tornado has been Sonic's vehicle since the early 90s. It's awesome. It's a red biplane. It's got Sonic on the side. He pilots it every now and then. Most of the time, Tails pilots it now. It's very classic. It's vintage. We all love it. So, and then it played a great role in adventure. You had Sky Chase. It got wrecked. Tails rebuilt it into the Tornado 2, which is the Tornado that we start out with in Sonic X, with the ability to kind of change modes into that high-speed performance mode. To me, I feel that the Tornado X is just... It's overly clunky. It's ugly looking. The only reason, it kind of exists is so it can bring, Chris and whichever other of his friends is tagging along this week.
Mm-hmm.
Because, what would have made more sense is if they had just the original Red Tornado. It couldn't get the job done, so they revamp it into the Tornado 2, and just the ability... to go from the normal mode to that high-speed performance mode that we see in Adventure, which looks like an X to begin with, that would have been a great story, great way to just introduce that mode into this and have that be the mode that they use to defeat the satellite sweeper or whatever the hell it's called. Because, once they figure out how to, get up there, Sonic takes it out pretty easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So, I don't know. Again, I feel like this is a soulless, thing to sell toys that I don't remember if they did or not. So, again, talking out my ass. But, yeah.
The only merch, I can't find a picture of it, there was some DVD with Sonic X where the Tornado X is in some position that makes it look like it's from some movie. But I can't find it, and I may be misremembering.
Huh. So we didn't get much, Sonic X toys. Those just didn't exist. Or did they?
I mean, if they did...
I thought they had, Lego figures or something.
If they did, they were probably re-releases of the Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 toys from the 90s.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. I guess they kind of had them. But yeah, they do definitely look like those really kind of... The way I would describe these toys is kind of frumpy looking. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry
I
if
mean-
somebody grew up with this toy and be like, stop making fun of my toy. That thing meant a lot to me. I'm sorry. But, like, I don't know. I mean, like, a lot of these Sonic toys I see, like, I don't buy a lot of these things because Sonic doesn't always work well as a toy, I feel like. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, boy.
I
Well, they're
mean,
better quality than the Sonic Prime toys, but
I mean, as
that's what I
plushies
think.
they work. I've gotten like 3 from a claw machine.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
oh.
know. Again, I'm not really sure about this. I mean, what is it? I guess I think this is like kind of an anime staple where it's like that it's very thin on plot and it's very heavy on excess, you know, where they just kind of like they're trying to like make that minute. They're trying to like, you know, fill in that filler, trying to bridge that gap. It's a bridge episode. I think that's what they call this.
Yeah.
So, Malzilla, how many bridges out of 10 or 5 do you give this one?
I'll give it 2.5.
Okay. I give it
Like
one
I said,
bridge.
like I said, it's fine. It's not terrible. It's not offensive like Intelligente, that stupid robot. But it just feels like, you know, like in a way, the episode achieves what it sets out to do, which is introduce the Tornado X. My thing is, I just think the Tornado X is kind of meh. So,
Right. Well, if no one has any other things to say about this episode, we'll move on to the next one.
The
You
only
have
thing,
more,
one
Neon?
last thing I wanted to say. Yeah,
Yes.
there was a way how they cut the song, the music in the Japanese dub. After the enemy robot's defeated, the music stops, and I think you can only hear the jet engine. And my immediate thought is, this reminds me a lot of finishing a mission in Ace Combat. So I don't know if that was their intent, but if it was, I think that's probably one of the few times they actually score the music well.
It'd be kind of funny if that was the direction that the creators were trying to reach. Like, it's got to be like and you know, like Ace Combat. It's gonna be just like that. How about we just do that? That'll fill the runtime, right? we gotta skip. We gotta skip it somehow.
We can't pull a Belka plot, but we can do the thing. We can do the music. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like watching these shows, right? I'm not really connecting with them as like I did with the Sad Am episodes. I mean, I really feel like, do I just have some nostalgia bias, or is just really just some of this just not as good? I don't know, because I didn't grow up with any of this. You know, I'm not familiar with any of it. I don't have any like nostalgic memories for any of these characters or any of these plots. So it's a bit hard for me to relate to. So I don't know.
I'll say after seeing this 8 times, it gets old. First time, it's amazing. By the third watch, you're going, okay. Even in the Japanese dub, it's like, oh, this is new, but who am I kidding? It's the same story.
Right. Well, Nan, we should bring you back at the end when we do a series wrap up to see what is it we enjoyed about this show, because I still haven't finished it. Because I've watched a few of these episodes. I got the season 2, but I've never made it. I've never made it past that. So, anyway, Malzilla, any other thoughts on this episode before we move on?
let's move on.
All right.
That's my thought.
Move on.
Okay. All right. Our next episode is called The Last Resort. Last Resort? Listen to me. The Last Resort, or Nagisa no Amy. Basically, Beaches Amy. I'm not making that up. That's how you would translate it. Or
Let's call it what it is. This is the Son Amy episode.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I would say this is probably the most. If I don't know, I haven't seen the other ones. I know that there's like a later episode where what's her name? Amy has a meltdown. I don't know how else to describe that. In front of Sonic, but
it's like 2 or 3.
2 or 3. Okay, all right. Well, this is one of the. But I don't know. I enjoyed this episode a lot. But that being said, yeah, this is Amy at the beach. That's a better localization than Beaches Amy. This is directed by Furuya Keiichiro, best known for directing the past episodes Cracking Knuckles and Sonic the Rescue. And this one, most notably, is written by Yoshimura Kyoko, best known as the Sonic 06 co-writer and scenario writer for Sonic Unleashed. So,
Did she write another episode like last time?
It's a she, by the way, Kyoko.
Yeah, Kyoko. Didn't she write something else just like in the last set of episodes?
Oh, I think
forget
so.
Which one.
I think I mentioned this name.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say this is like a Sonic team not aficionado, but a major player.
Associate.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to give them a better title, but let's go into the synopsis. So, Amy, Tails, Cream, and Cheese are excited to visit the newly opened Emerald Coast, while Chris attends an opening ceremony at Hotel de Blanc, in place of his mother. Sonic refuses to join the trip, shocking the others. Amy explains that he hates water and he can't swim, and at the resort, the group enjoys the beach, and Amy is inspired to make Sonic a lucky bracelet after seeing a couple exchange charms. Meanwhile, Dr. Eggman attacks, aiming to replace the hotel with Eggman's Scream Park. Excuse me. And captures Chris and the others. Sonic learns of the attack and rushes to help. During the battle, Eggman's octopus robot nearly drowns Sonic, but Amy saves him and defeats the robot with a power ring. Amy gives him the bracelet, but it's destroyed by a new robotic serpent. Enraged, Amy destroys the serpent and knocks Eggman into the sea, impressing Sonic. When she faints, Sonic dives in to rescue her, swimming for the first time. Later, Amy wakes up heartbroken over the lost bracelet, only to learn Sonic secretly kept it and now wears it on his wrist, closing the episode on a touching note. End of episode. So, thoughts? Malzilla, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I actually have kind of a thing to say about this.
Okay.
If I was new to Sonic, if I had maybe had a little experience with Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, if I was between the ages of like 8 or 9, well, let's rephrase the ages. Let's just say if you were new to Sonic and this was kind of like if you did not have a bedrock foundation from the Genesis games, the Archie comics, Sad AM, Adventures of, etc., this is a very sweet episode, and you could totally see. I could see why this episode was the reason a lot of people bought into Son Amy. You know, this episode is very quintessentially Amy. You see her, get flustered when she fantasizes about romance. We see her go off the rails when she sees the bracelet get stepped on, and just both Sonic and Eggman just kind of go, "Oh, we better step away," and then she just goes ballistic, world breaker Amy. It's hilarious. So there's a lot about things that, are very, very Amy. This is and if there was something I'd say, parts of the franchise that say define Amy, this is an episode that would be it. And, as someone who doesn't really I'm more neutral on Amy than I have been in the past. I think she's definitely rising, the ranks, but she's still outside of my top 20 favorite characters in the franchise. But as someone who's not really super into Son Amy, there's a lot of sweet moments. Again, the idea of the charm. It's hey, she watches the human couple do it. She's like, "Oh my god, I should do that." It's very cute, very wholesome.
Chad and Wendy.
Again,
Sorry,
Chad and Wendy. What a
so
Chad.
it is written. The female form of Chad is Wendy. So it is written. So shall it be known.
Chads and Wendy's. There we go.
She has red hair.
But
yes.
Yeah. So Sonic jumping in to save her, and then kind of she's sad that she did. I don't think she ever found out that he kept it, because I think it's supposed to kind of imply that he's off, and it cuts to the fact that he fixed it. So it's kind of he's being thoughtful. It is nice to see Emerald Coast in game. Emerald Coast has always been kind of one of my favorite areas, locales in Sonic. I just Emerald Coast is one of my favorite opening levels in any Sonic game, and
Wow.
So to see it kind of like come alive, since again they are in Station Square, they got the beach house, the villa, it's like Chris is like, do I have to do this? Like, you are representing the Thorndyke family. You are a very important person. So seeing him and Tanaka and Ella kind of like, back him up, and then Eggman saying, "I wasn't invited, so I'm gonna just destroy everything." That's pretty Eggman-y, and it's one of those things where like, oh, Sonic hates the beach, and I'm like, I just want to say that's bullshit. I have multiple occasions that Sonic is a premi for beachfront property.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like going on the water. Sonic OVA, what's the opening scene? Basically,
Beach.
him chilling on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Where's his hut in Sonic Boom? On the beach. Literally every starting level of Sonic is pretty much the beach. Sonic likes the beach. It's just he doesn't like going really in the water, which is fine. So
That or he's just a curmudgeon. I don't know.
Sonic X.
Or he's Barbara.
He's like, I'd rather be in the mountains. I'm like, are you sure? Really? Because I have countless things that would prove that to be false.
We found
But
your
it's
beachfront
actually
property, Barbara. Oh,
What were you about to say?
yeah, I was gonna say
we found your beachfront property, Barbara Streisand.
exactly. But I think it's a good episode. I think it is, out of the episodes we've seen so far, one of the better ones.
Oh yeah.
How long will that continue to hold that title? I can't say. But, this is a solid one. It has some nice character beats. It's got some fun action. Again, like just the whole scene of like Eggman and Sonic about to do their usual routine, and then you see them just sense the bloodlust from Amy, and they just kind of turn to look, and they're like, like, and just Amy just going insano. It's part of the fun of Amy's. You see both sides, or she can be very, she loves the idea of romance and love, and we're starting to see a little bit more of that in the game. Not just her love for Sonic, but her love of love, kind of the whole romantic side of things. And then you just see her like berserk mode, which is always hilarious to see.
So, Neon, thoughts?
To me, it was an episode. I was thinking for a moment, are they trying to
Interesting.
reference some of the Genesis stuff? But again, I come for Sonic. This is a filler episode to me.
Really? Okay. I take it you're
It's
not much
fine.
of an Amy fan.
No, I'm an Amy fan. It's just, I don't know. It's again, I've seen this 8 times. It may just be that I'm apathetic at this point.
Oh, okay.
But I think even as a kid, it was like, okay, this is what they're doing. But
Diminishing returns.
the what now? What?
Diminishing returns.
Yeah, diminishing returns. Just the more you watch it, they realize like, it's lose a little luster each time.
Yeah, the only comment I'll have on this is between the Japanese and the English, they are not good with their voice mixing or voice direction.
Which one?
It depends, because like in the English dub, when Chuck comes in to tell Sonic, hey, go to Emerald Coast, something's happening, he comes off angry, as if he's exasperated that Sonic is doing this. Whereas in the Japanese dub, he's more of, hey, there you are, something's happening, go.
Yeah, he kind of seemed like he was offended. Like, where have you been? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I mean, it's like episode 9. I kind of come and go as I please. I thought we established that.
Yeah.
But the other is, I don't know if it's just the Japanese direction or if there's something going on. I felt that the voice mixing in the Japanese dub was pretty bad. Like the voice actress of Amy wasn't properly fitting the scene, or the scene wasn't properly fitting her. How do I put this? it felt like they were putting more effort into noting, hey, this is Amy saying this, rather than trying to make it sound natural in the scene. I don't know. It's a bit hard to explain. Last thing I'll say, I don't know why they give the robots voices. I kind of prefer the English dub where they just don't give them voices. Because the voices just kind of...
Oh, that's right. They do have voices in the Japanese dub. I forgot about that. Yes, they talk. I don't know. I think that's kind of a... I mean, I don't know. If anyone can, hop in and, critique me on this, but I think that's kind of really a Japanese thing, making them seem kind of like giving them all voices. I think that's also a cliche.
Cartoon?
I'm not sure, but I don't know. So it kind of takes you out of it, the voices, you say?
In my opinion, yeah. I
Okay.
kind of prefer the English dub where only a few of them speak and the most of it's just Deathbot.
Okay.
But that's just me.
All right. I guess my notes in this episode. My biggest problem with this episode is the robots. I don't think any of these robots look like Sonic robots. It's like, I think of like the video games, right? Maybe
This season 1 has had a very... Its design style... Maybe they were trying to go because, like, they're very reminiscent of, like, the gun robots from SA2, at least in that style, and the show does kind of get into that, but, like, they don't come off very badnicky.
No,
like,
not at all.
No. Also, I forgot to mention, we see blob feet in this episode.
Yes, we do.
And,
Yes!
And yuck. We do not condone blob feet on the Sonic Coast to Coast podcast.
That's totally going to be the thumbnail. Toes. It's going to be like just Amy with her blob feet and just the like one word. Yuck.
We don't condone. Crossroad. Blob feet busters. No.
Oh, boy.
I don't think this is the first time they revealed that. I think there's a promo art somewhere else, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I may be confusing things.
I guess here, I have a question for you, Neon, because I wrote down that this seems like this, for me so far, because I'm not much of a Sonami person, but for me, if I was a Sonami person, I would say this is my peak Sonami, episode. If you think this one's just kind of average, do you have a moment that you think is the peak Sonami moment, like the defining moment?
I think going off of the different Sonami moments, there's an episode later on in the show where Sonic can't stop running.
Oh, yes. I remember that one.
I would think that's the one.
Really? Okay.
And not the season 31 when they're on the Vegas planet, the tourist trap planet, but I think that one is a better Sonami.
Okay. All right.
Just because it shows Amy really trying to care for Sonic.
Okay.
Even if by the end it's
kind of average. How about yourself?
Confusing it with...
Sorry, continue.
I was going to say, I may be confusing it with the episode where Sonic had a date and it confused with Sam Speed, but again, it's been years.
Right.
Recapping.
Well, for me, I guess if you can't remember it, that says something. You should be. I mean, this is the kind of the artist's job to make sure that you remember something. So if you don't remember it, then that's a thing. Well, I guess if you remember it for the wrong reasons, that's something else. But anyway, Malzilla, is this peak Sonami? Yes or no? I'm sorry to pigeonhole you, but I'm trying to make content here.
I'd say it's, at least from some of the stuff that I've seen, this has got to be at least top 5.
Okay. For me, this is like the one that's like, if I'm going to, tell somebody asks me what's some Sonami content I should watch, I would say this one. I don't know why I'm sounding like David Zaslav. Anyway, I've been watching too much of the news, I guess. Anyway, so one thing, yeah, as Neon said, one of my notes here is the music is very odd in this. I mean, I talked about this in the beginning of this episode, but it's like I said, the Japanese one is really sentimental, and it's almost kind of, it's really sad and like tragic, whereas like the American one, or the I guess international, it's a lot more playful and kind of like I guess the adjective I would use is cute. Whereas I don't know. Neon, did you have a thought on that?
I thought I find generally with the Japanese dub, they can be either okay with it or they can be very weird with the sound mixing. Bringing up the tragic, I'm almost wondering if they're trying to say this is almost a forbidden love, a love that cannot happen because Sonic is Sonic. Please stop, Amy. It's not going to work. There are better fish in the sea. There's one on the ark. Just go with him. Please.
It does kind of seem like that, doesn't it? Especially the way the music kind of like is trying to play you into that, right? Maybe they're trying to lean into the whole like love addict versus love avoidant sort of, trope, I guess. I don't know, because they're trying to step away from the whole what is it? Damsel in distress.
Talker with a crush.
Oh no, not that. But because they're trying to do the opposite of Mario, or at least that's what they were trying to do at the very beginning. But I think, what is it? Sega's kind of like pivoted from that because they started to realize, wait a minute, maybe this isn't such a healthy relationship that Amy's put herself into. To be this hopeless romantic. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
Definitely also the change. It's one of those things where like certain I'd say societal, not to go on a whole. I mean, we talked a little bit of this about in our big shipping episode with Chevelle, but Son Amy from its inception was very of its time, but at its time also kind of came and went as certain viewpoints changed on things. And I'm not saying that Son Amy got canceled, but it kind of, some of that dynamics, kind of that comedy kind of went out the window, and they had to come up with something new.
Yeah, I know you guys really like Sally. I kind of wonder if the current depiction of Amy, they're trying to take some of that element of Sally.
Probably. Most likely. I think it's very popular with people, so.
I could see that, but I also know Ian and Evan well, and I don't know them, but I've engaged.
I messaged them yesterday. They're very angry.
Yeah, we go out for beers and whatnot. We hang out all the time. But I was gonna say, like,
for the record, that's not true. It's not true. Anyway, sorry. Melzilla, continue, please. Sorry to interrupt.
But I feel like because a lot of the main Sonic writers right now, especially with the comics, which are also the ones currently, pretty much, again, Evan's on the lore team. I think she's the chief artist for the lore team as well. These are writers who know Sally, and they know Amy, and they know that there is a very distinct difference from them, and I'm sure they get tired to the max at nauseum of, Amy's the new Sally, when no, they're two different characters. Maybe, and not to go into IDW a whole lot, but if I might digress, if I might tangent, which as our listeners know, it's what we do best. When you had Amy take over the restoration, it pretty much became clear within not so many issues that Amy is completely out of her league. Like, she's out of her element, leading stuff, the bureaucracy, the paperwork. It's, while picking it up from Knuckles was, it was the right thing to do because, the whole organization was a smart thing to have. And it's very much an Amy saying, well, you know what, I'm going to do this for the group. But at the same time, she doesn't have those delegation, bureaucratic leadership skills that, say, Sally as a princess or Blaze as a princess would have intrinsically through their educations and their life experience of,
Yeah,
oh
that's
no,
true.
we're expected you to
Fair enough.
lead. So or Amy, you know, she in to her Amy's credit, she developed some good squad leading when they're out, you know, doing shenanigans, but leading those top level, you know, groups like the Freedom Fighters or the Restoration or the, you know, the Resistance, yada yada. Those skill sets are better used for someone like, again, like a Sally or a Blaze or a Jewel, because Jewel's the one who took that over. You know, they have that more administrative skills that Amy doesn't. Again, Amy likes being out in the action with Sonic, so, you know, she's gonna be more of in the field type personality.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, because if you think about it in terms of Sonic Heroes, she definitely was like the muscle character, right?
You know, she was the speed character, but yeah. You
Oh, I'm
know,
sorry. You're right. No, that was big. What am I saying? Yeah,
You know,
my
well,
memory
you know,
sucks.
it's
All right. Yeah,
you know,
you're right.
it is funny because I do think that even though Amy has trained to keep up with Sonic, if you go with that Sonic Heroes of each character, you know, each trio has to have a speed, a power, and a flight.
Yeah.
Realistically, Amy is power. Like, Amy and that hammer is like, you know, that might commit some war crimes. You know, people. Have you guys seen that recent meme of like 100 people versus like one
gorilla?
silverback gorilla?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw someone made a like 100 angry fans versus, you know, Amy. I'm like, that's total annihilation. They're trying Amy for war crimes because that's just how powerful she is.
She can
Like,
just summon hammers.
She, you know, Odin asked Thor, "What are you, the god of hammers?" And Amy's like, "Nope, that's me. That's me. I'm the goddess of hammers."
Right, right. I guess my other note for this, unless Neon has something to say about the whole Amy versus Sally thing. Any thoughts?
Nope. I didn't
Okay.
really read the Archie comics. I read most of the IDW stuff.
Okay.
So,
Take our word for it.
Okay. Yeah, well,
do you know how hard it is to find the Archie comics? I can't find them anywhere.
Unless you decide to, you know, hoist the colors and go yar har fiddly dee, do what you want because a pirate is free. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Okay.
You be
Oh,
a
no.
privateer, mind you. It's not piracy; it's privateering. Anyway, in my other notes here, I got two other notes. The other thing here I have is, I don't know if this is because I'm a Westerner, but or I feel like you know how like sometimes like when you look at modern art and you're like, I just don't get it, man. I don't understand what's the significance here. But like I'm like really like just struggling to watch the subbed version of Sonic X. I'm like, why did they make this creative decision? Like, there's a lot of creative decisions I still comment about, and I'm sort of wondering, there's certain parts of like the dub where you can kind of tell they're struggling to make it into something for Westerners, and it makes me wonder, it's like, is this because I'm a Westerner and the way I view the world or the way I view storytelling is askew? And you know, maybe, and also like makes me self-conscious. I'm like, wait. Maybe this is just like, you know, maybe I'm the problem. You know, maybe I'm the problem and I need to figure out, I don't understand Japanese storytelling well enough, but because my understanding of Japanese storytelling is a lot of Japanese stories that kind of focus more on like these mini plots that don't go anywhere. And that's kind of the point. Whereas like Western style stories, they kind of all lead to like some bigger, you know, ending point. Like if I take a story like Ulysses, right, where you have like hundreds of characters, and I don't know, I guess my last time I read Ulysses is a long ass time ago, and I probably fell asleep during most of it. But my understanding is that that's like a lot of actually, you know what? Maybe War and Peace. You know, I'm actually now thinking about
Game
it
of
now.
Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, I guess, is
Horus
a better
Heresy.
example. What?
Horus Heresy.
Okay, I don't know that one, but
Neither do I.
I think that yeah, something like, I guess maybe, yeah, we'll use a bit more something a bit more current. Yeah, Game of Thrones, that's leading to somewhere. Where I guess you could also say the Sonic X is leading to somewhere where they all have to go home at a certain point. I guess that's kind of the push, but I really feel like a lot of these, like, I guess Japanese type stories or Eastern type stories, a lot of them are just about these tiny moments that happen that nothing goes on. I can give you an example. So in one of the IDW books, I think Ian wrote the most Eastern of Eastern stories ever. Not to digress too much here, but there's the one where, like, Blaze or something goes to visit Knuckles. I think, is it Lava Reef Zone? And then
Yeah. It was
yeah.
it was in one of the annuals. It was basically to give some context to our listeners. It was the annual of basically random character pairings. So you had Gemerald and Omega fought, and then you had Rouge and Tangle team up with Rough and Tumble. But like the main one was Ian's story about Blaze and Knuckles, and basically the idea, because Blaze wants to kind of hang out with Sonic's crew because they're her friends and she's becoming more accustomed to the idea of having friends. But she's all locked up in the Soul Dimension with just basically Marine and Garcon, I think is the koala's name. They've basically wiped out the robot pirates from the Rush game, so it's kind of like she's got really nothing to do, but she's also the guardians of the Soul Emeralds. So she kind of wants, and now they give her the ability to travel back and forth. So she kind of goes to talk to Knuckles because Knuckles is kind of the only one who can kind of get and understand her, plight or her situation. So she kind of asks him, like, have you ever wanted to take a vacation? And ultimately, that kind of leads her to saying, hey, I'm going to go hang out with Sonic. Marine, you're in charge. If anything happens, let me know and I'll rush back. So that's why Blaze is actually a part of the main narrative right now, because she's technically on her vacation, which is probably going to last for like 5 years. For all intents and purposes, I think.
Right. Well, because, yeah, when I watched that, or excuse me, when I read that issue, I'm like, that's it? That's the whole story? It's not leading anywhere? It's not going anywhere? And it's not that I didn't like
it's the
it.
annual.
What's that?
Radrey, it's the annual.
It's the annual?
It's just the filler comic before the next arc.
He's not wrong.
Well, no, I mean, like, in general Western type storytelling, generally shouldn't this lead up to somewhere, or just a major reveal towards the end, or have some sort of, like, rising conclusion that brings you to a new reveal of some kind? I'll give you another example. Like, I was just finishing up the show Severance, right? That show is very, very, very heavy on plot. The plot moves very fast. And it's not like I have trouble keeping up with it. The plot actually goes places. Whereas, like, I feel like, this sort of Eastern type storytelling, they kind of meander and they kind of savor the plot, right? Or there's basically almost, maybe you could even say there's no plot. The plot is kind of driven by the moment or spare the moment. So I don't know. I guess you guys, yeah, you're welcome to tell me that, no, Radley, this is a comic book thing. This is, a thing that they do in comics all the time. But to me, it's like, I can appreciate it. Okay, I'll first and foremost, I can say I can appreciate a story like this. I can appreciate it, but it's a little point. It gets to a point where you're like, I didn't enjoy it. It's like, I don't know, drinking that beer that you've never drank before, and you're like, this is terrible. Why do everybody like this? I guess it was good. I don't know. Am I the only one who feels this way? Please, divulge.
I mean, my biggest complaint of the comics is some of the storylines they go. Like, I still don't know why the girls' night out camping was a mainline thing in the Sonic issue and not a side series, but I don't know.
Because I think I can quasi answer that because it's been kind of one of the things that's been kind of low key, casually revealed over the last couple of years because a lot of fans have been wanting a second monthly Sonic book, a la Archie's Sonic Universe, where obviously Sonic is the mainline book, and then you can, with a universe book, you can tell like stories about Knuckles or Blaze or Silver or Shadow, kind of these characters who are popular but not always in the forefront of the main book because it's Sonic.
Right.
Where like this whole thing with now that issue in question, the girls' night out or the girls' camping adventure, while on one hand was supposed to kind of be, it was a part of the imposter syndrome lead up, as it was, Kit and Surge who started that wildfire, but at the same time, it's like that story normally would have been perfect for a universe type book. And you could have really, instead of just being like a one and done issue, you really could have gotten into like a 3 or 4 issue arc about Amy, about Jewel, Tangle, and Whisper, and all of them kind of, working things out and kind of going a little bit more into detail, as well as kind of, hinting more at Surge and Kit.
I see.
I guess that kind of, I guess you could say, it's the format that kind of dictates how something is. I guess that's what I get out of what you're just saying, Malzilla, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add to this episode is these couple of episodes kind of remind me of the first couple of episodes of Digimon, where it's you have to introduce the characters and give each character an episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's very much what this is. Like, not in this batch of episodes, but because I've kind of started watching ahead, and really, this first opening arc ends with like episode 13. So they gave like us a 13 episode like opening introductory arc.
Right. So.
I guess my only other note with this, my last note, is I remember like Sonic Adventure. I mean, I don't know if this is because I was playing it in 2021, but I found so much of Sonic Adventure to be so awkward. I mean, maybe it was really cool at the time and when it came out, but like there's a lot of moments in this show where I'm sort of asking myself is like, why are they so loose with holding these emeralds? I understand they just put it behind their back and it just magically goes in their pocket or something. I don't know why. That's always bothered me. Like, at least in like
they
Sonic...
still do that.
What?
They still do, like...
they still do that, like in Sonic
quills.
Frontiers. That stuff bothers me so much. Like, maybe if it was like a Tex Avery thing where they had like a big pocket they put in there, I can accept that.
Their quills are hammer space.
All right. I don't know.
If you think too much about it, you unfortunately reach the implication.
The implication,
exactly. This is true. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It gets to a point where it sort of takes me out of it in a way, but I don't know. I mean, this show has very much a lot of that Sonic Adventure awkwardness that I saw in the game, and it's sort of like one of these things where I really wish I played it when it came out. So I could look past some of these awkward moments and not think about the creators who made it. Because it's like, once I start thinking about the creators, it's done for me. It's like, I'm not like enjoying it anymore. It's really hard for me to bring me back into a story. Especially something like this where it's so fantastic that it's not realistic at all. But like when you hit that spot, it's good, but I don't know. There's a lot of moments in this show that are like, I'm seeing the spackle, man. I'm seeing all the spackle on the walls. And I can't ignore it. It's the albino and the beam of flashlight. Ooh. Anyway, that's my last thought. Any other thoughts before we move on to the baseball episode?
Honestly, I'm more interested in the baseball episode. I'm just gonna say I'm giving this
I didn't ask for reviews. Yes.
I'm just gonna say I'm gonna give it 2 seashell necklaces out of 5.
All right. Now, Zilla.
And the Sonami fans can come after me.
I'd say, again, I thought it was a
Fair.
good episode, and I gave it. This is episode 9, right? Yeah, I gave it a good. So I'll give it 3 to 3.5. Amy, necklace shells, bracelets.
3.5. Yeah, I'll go with that. 3.5. 3.5 angry Amy necklace shells out of 5. Yeah.
3.5 raging Amy's.
Yeah, there you go. Raging Amy necklace shells. There we go. We should make that a thing. All right, so without further ado, episode 10, Unfair Ball, or Gekito Sonic Yakyu Gun, Fierce Fight Sonic Baseball Team. That's probably the best localization I can give you. Directed by Kuni Matsumi, best known for nothing. I couldn't find any info on them. So I didn't do too much of a deep dive on these names, but I could not find anything. This one was written by Sato Masafumi, also the writer on KS Emerald Crisis. So I'm going to go into the synopsis of this one. Tails test flies the X-Tornado over Station Square, powered by a green KS Emerald. Suddenly, an Emerald reacts to the presence of another nearby, sending the plane into a dive towards Diamond Stadium. Tails regains control just in time and lands safely outside the stadium, where he meets Albert Butler, a longtime groundskeeper saddened by the stadium's imminent demolition. Albert reveals that he found a KS Emerald there, and when the two emeralds are brought together, they emit a bright light into the sky. The light catches the attention of Eggman and his crew, as well as Sonic and friends at the Thorndike Mansion. Eggman, through a message delivered by Bokun, dressed as a baseball player, challenges Sonic's team to a winner-takes-all baseball game for the Emeralds at Diamond Stadium. Despite initial reluctance from Knuckles and suspicion from Chris, everyone agrees to play, partly encouraged by Chuck, who is thrilled by the idea. At the stadium, Eggman tries to steal the Emeralds, but is stopped by Knuckles. Eggman then introduces his team of robotic players, the E21... help me out with this name. Balios? Balios. I forgot how they say it in the episode. It's been a minute. The game begins, filled with comedic moments and rule-bending antics from Eggman's team. Sonic's team struggles at first, but gradually fights back thanks to clever plays. Amy's hammer batting and Cream's kindness, which even charms the Balios player. Knuckles hits key home runs, tying the score. As the game nears its climax, Chris steps up and, despite initial failure, manages to make a successful play with Sonic's encouragement. Just as Sonic's team pulls ahead, Eggman tries to sabotage the game with a self-destructing robot clamped to Sonic's head. Knuckles knocks it off mid-air, saving Sonic. Amid the chaos, Eggman escapes with 1 Chaos Emerald. End of episode. Oh, excuse me. No. I have more notes. Forgive me. That's not the end of the episode. The real end of the episode is the game ends with cheering fans that get a visit from Elmer Johnson, the stadium's owner, who offers Albert a new role preserving the field for a new stadium. Chuck concludes the game and helped everyone grow stronger as a team, ready for the new challenges ahead. This is the end of the episode. Forgive me. Anyway, fellas, thoughts? Let's start with Neon.
So I had a lot going into this episode. First thing, I thought they were trying to do some kind of reference between the groundskeeper and the owner. I thought, oh, this is clearly a Babe Ruth and Jackie Robinson reference.
Oh.
It's not. In fact, it's actually a Batman reference.
What?
Because Alfred Butler. The groundskeeper's name is Alfred Butler, as in Alfred Butler.
Good job.
I thought, clearly that they're going to do this. No, it's not. Okay, are these reference to some Japanese teams? No, okay. Is the stadium shutting down a reference to the Astrodome? No, okay. And then later on, when I watched the Japanese dub, when Tails is walking into the stadium, it's very eerie. And my immediate thought is this a reference to the show A Field of Dreams? Is the groundskeeper really a ghost? No, he's actually alive. Okay. What are we doing here, Sega? And then I thought, well, why are you doing baseball? Okay, baseball's popular in Japan. But then I remembered, oh, wait. Sonic Team was on Virtual Soccer 2 version 2002. Sorry, Virtual Striker 3 version 2002 for GameCube. So
Didn't know that.
why are we doing why are we doing baseball? You have a character that's played soccer in a soccer game, and you're doing these baseball references, but they're not references to anything.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
I guess
I'm
maybe
with Knuckles on this.
Yeah. What are we doing here? Maybe it's the same reason you were saying earlier, Neon, about how this. What was the game you mentioned? Ace something.
Ace Combat.
Ace Combat. Thank you. Maybe it's like they like, you know what would be cool if Sonic did a baseball thing, or you know what would be cool if we had an Ace Combat episode. Maybe that was probably going through their heads when they probably made this episode. That's the only thing I can surmise here.
I mean, they put Ikaruga in Sonic Frontiers, so.
Wait, who?
They do
Ikaruga.
Like the game, like the little little, like before they put the final like patch in, when you'd fight the end and you get the little like spaceship and you had to shoot all the little things to, a shmup type game.
Okay.
Like those Ace Combats, you're the plane and you had to shoot the enemies, you get the power ups, and you shoot the crazy lasers.
Okay.
Ikaruga was one of those games, so. Like Galaga, that man over there is playing Galaga. He didn't think we noticed, but we did.
Was Malzilla, thoughts on this episode?
It's funny because usually traditionally when shows do baseball episodes, because Sonic's not the only one to do this. They're usually filler episodes. Like Dragon Ball Super did a baseball episode of, Universe 6 versus Universe 7. And it was really funny because they got to give Yamcha, who is basically a character for the plot had kind of forgotten about because, it's Yamcha. He'd become a kind of a joke at that point. Where, since he played baseball in the game as a professional, that kind of allowed him to, be like an active part of the episode. So, it's usually, a chance for the characters to have fun, and do some crazy things. Like, Knuckles, who's always kind of like the naive one, is also like shooting the most sense. Like, why are we even doing this? And then, Amy and, Cream kind of trick him into saying like, oh, you're not scared, are you? He's like, I'm not scared of anything, blah, blah, blah. And then, Cream almost like, between the US and the Japanese version, kind of like, I like you, Mr. Robot. Please throw the ball soft. I'm like, whoa. Did you learn, did Uncle Bugs teach you the art of bunny seduction or something? And, because... the robot picture
I don't know
is
if
like...
that's seduction. I think that's just... he's overwhelmed by the cuteness, I think.
I don't know. It seemed kind of... She seemed a little overly moe and kind of, like, suggestive. But then again, that's... I could be mistaken. I might need to get my mind out of the gutter.
I think
this
so.
isn't the
Watching
only
way
robot
too much anime hentai or something.
I've been on the
internet I'm not there with you.
Too long. Been on the internet way too long.
This isn't the only robot that has fallen for Cream. I'm not going to explain any further.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
No notes given.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of, it's a fun little episode. It's funny because like Eggman and Chuck are like super into this, like, let's do this. And like Tails like, no, because like he talks to like, Alfred in the beginning, and Alfred's like, I've done this for like 30 years. I've had a really good run. It's, and unfortunately, times change. You got to get new stadiums and blah, blah, blah. And they're going artificial turf. And it's like, Tails, like, he's touched about this because, they kind of had a kooky little opening because, like, oh, you're a talking fox, blah, blah, blah. That's so weird. And, he's trying to, Tails is trying to be considerate of Alfred, all the hard work he's put into like the stadium, the field, the pitch for some, and it's just kind of like he's like, okay, let's do this. But it's also kind of funny, like you talked a little bit about the end, but like Scarlett Garcia like notices it like 2/3 of the episode, and she's like, oh, let's go report on it, and eventually like everyone and their mother just shows up to watch them play baseball. And it's one of those funny things where it's like, up until this point, Sonic, he wasn't quite a cryptid, but he kind of might as well be, that he was. So, they're openly like watching them do all the stuff. So it's like, and this kind of gets expanded upon. So now like the public is learning more about Sonic and company. So they're kind of starting to earn a little celebrity status. But, it's a fine episode. Again, it's one of those funny things where it's like, in any other show, in any other Sonic X things, this would be a filler episode. But because they find the whole thing gets set off with a Chaos Emerald, this is like an actual plot episode, and I kind of have to give them credit for that. It's like, you could have just said, we're just going to have them play baseball, and that's it. But like, nope, there's going to be a Chaos Emerald involved. It's relevant. It's like, well, you know what? Well, how about that?
I guess on my end, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of this episode. It was just, it's fine. To me, this is a sports episode with no stakes to it. I'm not into sports. I don't really like sports. I don't really understand the score or what the rules are, who's winning. I don't know. I sort of feel like the thing that kind of annoys me about this show is I'm watching this show. It's like the Sonic movies, right? It doesn't want to. I mean, whereas the Sonic movies I enjoy, they keep the pacing and the plot moving forward. Whereas this, it's like it doesn't answer the interesting questions I'm more looking for. Like, where are they from exactly? Why is Eggman the only human in Sonic's world? What kind of food does Sonic and his friends eat on his world? Questions like that. I start thinking about questions like these. So, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of this one. Maybe it's because I don't like sports. I give it, I don't know, 1 robotic baseball out of 5. Anybody else have reviews for this?
If we're going to keep the baseball theme, I rated this. Well, let me pull up my rankings. This is episode 10. I give it a good, so I'm gonna say I give this a double. It's a double. It's not quite a triple, and it's not quite a home run or a grand slam, but it's a double. It's a good time.
All right, Neon.
I feel like there's a lot of missed potential here. They imply that they show that Eggman knows what baseball is. The rest of the characters don't know baseball. I guess what I'll say is I give it 2 ghosts coming out of the cornfield to play baseball, and then sad that it's just AstroTurf out of 5.
Sad. Oh God, it was Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones.
Yes,
a sad James Earl Jones. If you ever want to watch good cinema, listen to YouTube James Earl Jones monologue at the end of Field of Dreams. It is cinema. It's one of those great cinematic monologues of talking about baseball.
Did you put your hands in the air like Martin Scorsese did at the end of that meme?
It kind of did. It's definitely one of those, like the way he talks about it, right. Vivid imagery, very cinema. Much cinema.
Interesting. We had more to say about the Amy episode and less about this one. All right.
I mean, it's baseball. I mean, I know people like baseball, but I'm from the South. They watch football here. And by football, I mean with the spheroid obloid.
Right.
So.
Not soccer.
Okay.
Real football. If you're in the South, you're an SEC junkie.
Right.
College ball.
Right. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to the next episode. Yeah,
That's my saxophone,
yeah.
aggressive saxophone. Because guess who's back?
Back
Rouge.
again. No.
And
Yeah,
especially in the American, they go heavy on that saxophone.
yeah. The
As
American
they should.
dub. What the? Not the American. Yeah, the American dub. What am I saying? They go heavy on that one. You're right.
But give us the episode. Lay it down thick.
Yeah, this episode 11, Fly Spy, or was it what's that kanji again? I'm looking at the kanji and I didn't write the hiragana on top in this one. This one is Utsukushiki Kaito Rouge, a beautiful and mysterious rouge. This one's directed by Oyamada Keiko, also known for directing episode 3. I forgot which one that was. I didn't write down the title. But she's mentioned on the show before. And then it was also written by Masaki Hiro, who also did writing in a lot of the Sonic X episodes. So, to begin with the synopsis, this episode kicks off with Rouge the Bat breaking into a high-security facility to steal a massive jewel, not a Chaos Emerald, but something that's shiny enough to tempt her. And
Because diamonds are forever.
I guess so.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Yes. Well, we had to set up the story somehow. We couldn't use a Chaos Emerald for reasons, I guess. Yeah, so the theft grabs the attention of the media and the government, who are already on edge thanks to Eggman's growing threat. And meanwhile, Sonic, Tails, and Chris are out hunting for a red Chaos Emerald spotted near an old factory. Or at least what Mr. Stewart claims is near an old factory. This is a bizarre plot line. I want to talk about this later. Back at Chris's school, Rouge eavesdrops on a tip about the Emerald's location, but ends up walking into a military trap. Instead of locking her up, Gunn recruits Rouge as a special agent to help them break into Eggman's island base. She's not thrilled, especially with the bomb strapped to her wrist as motivation, but goes along for the ride. Inside Eggman's base, Rouge and new partner Topaz face off against a noise-blasting robot named Noisy. Things get chaotic, literally, but Rouge manages to outsmart the machine, blow it up, and save Topaz in the process. Eggman, of course, gets caught up in his own explosion. Back at the school the next day, Chris and Danny are caught sleeping in class after their own failed adventure that Mr. Stewart sent them on. End of episode. Yep. Thoughts? We'll start with Malzilla.
This is the best episode so far.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't like this one, but okay.
So basically, you have to give the show credit because this show is playing loose and fast, and they found a very ingenious way to introduce a character way before the game adaptation of the game that she showed up. And again, Rouge debuted in Sonic Adventure 2, which they would adapt in Season 2.
Right.
And they brought her in she was in the first episode. You know, she was sneaking in to steal some emeralds from Eggman, and she got caught into the, Chaos Control. So they bring her, so she's on Sonic World. She's doing her own thing, and she steals the gem, leaves her calling card. She's like, it's not a Chaos Emerald, but all the world's gems are mine to keep. So very much in Rouge. And then, you get the scene where, like, okay, well, they start talking, the government starts talking about Sonic. Well, like, we need to get Sonic on our side so we can fight Eggman. And so, like, they set up, clearly, they feed to Stewart, and he's going to say, like, okay, we're going to set them up to steal, kind of set up this meeting. But, Rouge, who is just, hanging upside down outside the elementary school, rather, odd place to hang out. Rouge, someone needs an adult. So you got that, and then she goes off. She messes with them because they bring Danny along to go find the emerald, but they got duped. So then you get the whole scene of them in the Rouge gets captured, and you get the great line. They in the official dubs.
This line.
Yeah, they said, "Oh, you like it rough," but then like in the unofficial but official, it's like, "Oh, so you're into S&M," and
I don't remember
Topaz
that.
blushes, and then I'll shoot you the image.
No, I believe you. I believe you.
We've all seen the SA2 alternate art. We've all seen the alternate costume.
Yeah,
this is
and
canon,
so
by the way,
it's canon. Yeah, it's canon. But all the people into all the other commandos just start cracking up because it's just like here Rouge is getting hit on by Topaz getting hit on this by this busty bat, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, well,
and it's funny because then they bring her into the president, or like the president's like who I jokingly refer to Bill Clinton. It's like, oh yeah, you're like, well, Rouge, here's the thing, and she's like, I'm Rouge the Bat, and it's like, okay, person who has just basically stolen a bunch of priceless gems. We need to fight Dr. Eggman, and quite frankly, we were trying to get Sonic, but we got you, and here's the deal. Work for us, work for me, the president, and we'll wipe away all your criminal deeds. And she's like, this isn't actually a bad idea. It's like, you can get closer to the Chaos Emerald. It's like, well, what about those gems? Like, oh, they were never found. She's like, yes, I'm in. So she gets in, and it's really funny because, like, in the next episode that we'll talk about next time, she's sitting on like, high level like battle planning seminars. It's like, who cleared Rouge for a security clearance?
you can be surprised.
You can be surprised, yeah. Took Oppenheimer forever to get one, but they give it to a bat that fast. But yeah, it's great, and Topaz is such an amazing foil to Rouge because, again, Rouge works she's a great double act character, especially, it's the reason why she's always paired with Shadow. Her personality, it clashes, but also complements Shadow's stoic, serious nature so well. And in here, you kind of have a mini version of that with Topaz, who's kind of more of the professional soldier. And she's kind of an in-between Shadow and Knuckles. Whereas, like, Rouge plays really well off Knuckles because she can just push his buttons and Knuckles, is all, goes crazy and, starts ranting and raving. Where, like, Shadow just kind of, like, ignores her and they kind of banter. So Topaz is kind of that fun little middle ground. And then, they're on their way to do, the recon, she slaps the bracelet on her, which it's funny because, like, in the fight, Rouge just like breaks it like it was nothing. It's also really funny is that in the fight with the robot, she actually does she calls out her attack like the screw kick or screw whatever. Like, she says it like 3 times in the Japanese dub, but she doesn't really say it in the English dub. But again, it's fun. I think the episode itself, it's good, but it's how they set up this character for the context of this show that I think is really done, and it sets one of the great ongoing character story and dynamics throughout Sonic X. Like, much like how fans would love to see Agent Stone from the movie show up in the the games and the comics and whatnot. Topaz is probably the one character from Sonic X where you said you can bring one character from Sonic X over. It would probably be a toss-up between her and Cosmo. Because Topaz, had such a great, dynamic with Rouge. And plus the fact that people ship them, it's not okay to ship Elise Sonic, but Rouge Topaz, totally fine. But yeah, again, I really enjoyed it. These Topaz and Rouge are hilarious. I find them hilarious. This gets it gets four polygons. If you don't get the joke, watch Real Time Fan Dub.
4 polygons out of 5.
Yeah, 4 polygons.
Okay. Neon, thoughts on this episode? Notes? Anything?
Big thing for me is this. I think this is like the first time we actually get properly introduced to Danny, one of Chris's Burger King friends.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's like the
does look
Burger
like
King
from the old-
Kids Club. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for the longest time his name is it was Tolkien or Token, but no, that's South Park.
Ew.
From what I understand,
Yeah.
from what I understand from the original pilot, Danny was supposed to be a bit more of an important character, but we can only have one human child here be important for a while.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Man,
Japanese
I'd take Danny
dub-
over Chris any day. Let me put it this way. I'd find Danny way more interesting than Chris, but that's just me.
Weirdly, I find episodes where they deal with the more moral ambiguous characters to be more interesting than Sonic, and I've noticed that with the games. SA2, yeah, sure, Team Sonic's good, but Team Dark is better. Sonic Heroes, yeah, the teams are good, but clearly Team Dark is the good one. Shadow the Hedgehog, okay, you can't all be great, but it's just interesting to see that of these, here are these characters, the Rouge one actually does something a bit different and interesting that continues the plot.
Well, kind of to play off that, again, like even with Sonic 06 and how disappointing that game was on so many levels, people love the Shadow story. When you get these morally gray characters that are, they're still good guys, you can actually tell some compelling, interesting stories. It's one of the reasons why I know she gets, she's not always as beloved as she was now, but like when Rouge really kind of first started to be actively in the Archie comics, because she made a few cameos here and there, but nothing really, it wasn't really until Ian came in that, she started getting used often. Like, she was a lot more selfish, like in her pursuit of Knuckles, who was dating Julie Sue at the time. So you kind of had some really fun, potential love triangles shenanigans going on. But, Rouge is one of those persons where, yes, she's a hero. She's a good person. But she's also really selfish. And so it's also really fun to kind of see her pursue her own ends while still working, like, on the side of the angels. Like, kind of going back to the annual where, you have her and Tangle and, teaming up with Rough and Tumble. Well, they each kind of, team up with one of the skunks. But, Rouge ends up playing them all. And, like, the final scene is, like, Rouge flying away with the gems. And, like, Tangle just looking up with her arms to the sky, like borderline crying, distraught because she's been played. Like, why, Rouge? Why? But again, Rouge is really fun because you never know which angle she's working. And yes, she's still a good person. She's still a hero, but she's also kind of has that fun selfishness to her.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason with the DC crossover, while Shadow is Batman, they tended to pick Rouge as Catwoman.
Yeah, most fans have kind of just, jumped at that. I doubt we'll get, Catwoman Rouge this version, but from the way that comic has been selling, the first issue's already gone into its third printing, which means it's selling pretty well. Yeah, we're probably going to get a follow-up, and we'll see more kind of mishmashes. So
DC and Ruby, DC and Sonic, money.
Yeah, exactly. DC and Godzilla, also money. So they're doing the second DC Godzilla or Monsterverse, because Kong's there too. So that's a comic that's coming out right now.
Right,
But,
right.
Yeah. The only other real comment I'll say is the scene where she's she's thinking on the offer. In the English dub, it seems more like she's thinking, whereas the Japanese dub, it's almost like she's she's turning to the audience and saying, "This is the plan I'm doing." Maybe it's just how I'm hearing it, but I thought that was a neat little thing. The final thing, and this is just someone who likes military stuff. It always intrigues me to see how pop culture depicts special forces and soldiers, and in this instance, they went more for the Team Rainbow or Rainbow Six approach. Guys in dark tactical gear, but none of the Molly vests. They have MP5s, but they don't have any of the tactical stuff.
They have ascots.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Pretty much SAS
tactical
storming the embassy.
We're tactical ascots. They protect our neck.
Forgive my ignorance, but
fashionable.
what's an ascot?
You know what? It's kind of like the neck scarf, like Fred from Scooby Doo.
Oh, okay. They had ascot. I don't remember those. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
They weren't really they've since gone out of fashion.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like usually if you're wearing an ascot, you're like either super rich or want to make people think you're like high class.
Right. Okay.
Or Freddy.
Or Freddy.
Okay. Noted.
Military uses a lot.
All right. Well, my personal notes for this episode, I just have a few again. For me, the episode that was peak was the Sonami one, but let's see here. My main first note is, why are all the museum guards from Texas, or is it just that one guy? They all like a Texas accent.
I think it was just the one guy.
Okay.
4Kids is hilarious with their accent choices.
Like, well, they can't all sound the same, so they got to sound like, stereotypes of like people we've heard. Like, what was it? Like the second episode, all of them are like Eastern European, like the people who like are the construction workers.
They had the one overly aggressive Irish cop.
Yeah, in the very first episode. Yeah.
And then they have the faux posh British Lindsay. So Thorndike.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's 4Kids.
Yeah, I guess it's 4Kids. They wanted to have some fun, or they didn't know what to do, or they had. I picture the way I picture like the production of this going is, oh man, we got so much to do, man, and we have to finish this by Monday. What are we gonna do? I don't know. Just make something up. Have fun with it. Just make it up. Like, all right, let's go. We're doing the Texas accent, and we're gonna do this. I'm not sure what this means, but this being said, I'm a little dunking on 4Kids. I will give them some cred in terms of like trying to clean up the plot from some of the Japanese plots that make no sense, or they kind of land flat. Like especially the telehentai episode where it doesn't make any sense why the robot's kicking him out of the as a Mr. Stewart kicking out Mr. Stewart from his his job. And then them all just accepting that the robot was better. But, yeah, in terms of this episode, one major question I wanted to ask you guys, and this is really the only question I had. Oh, no, I guess I have one more thing. I have two. The first one is why does Mr. Stewart bring up this whole Chaos Emerald thing? Does he just want to see if they're gullible enough? Or does he want to, like, use them for surveillance? Or...
well, again, the government was trying to get in contact with Sonic,
right?
So it's like, they know Sonic's living with them, so like anything that he says, he'll pass on to Sonic. So they're kind of quasi aware that Sonic's after the emeralds. So like, if they say, "Hey, I saw, there's rumors that a gem like that, but red is over at the sugar mill in Derry," and they're like, kind of crazy, huh? And they're like, "Sonic, I got a lead," and they're like, and Meanwhile, Rouge is outside creeping. It's like, well, so do I. A little Ojo Sama laugh.
I'm waiting for the Wilhelm scream. I don't think it makes it into the show, but it'd be cool
I
if it
don't
did.
think it would be hilarious, but I don't.
I don't
Does
think it does.
Japan use the you know?
Oh, I mean, they definitely. I don't know if they use the Wilhelm scream. I think that's more of a Western thing, or a Hollywood thing. But I mean, they definitely have their tropes here. But I don't quite remember if they've used that. Not in recent memory, or at least I'm not too much in the Japanese media. Yeah, I have to ask some of my friends who actually work in the industry. So, yeah, because my understanding is that this whole Mr. Stewart Red KS Emerald thing is just really a red herring, or they wanted to, they wanted to send Rouge there or something because they were hoping she'd be listening. I mean, at least that's what the episode's trying to tell me, or at least that's what I understand.
No, they're trying to get Sonic, and so that's why they're passing it on to
But then kind of Rouge fell in their laps, and that's why they kind of just dropped the whole "let's catch Sonic" thing. Can I say that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So basically, they got Rouge, which really was the better deal. Like, again, Rouge is someone they can play ball with, and actually, again, being a secret agent operative, it plays to her strengths. Of course, that's the game she debuted in. She was a jewel hunter and a government agent, so she's got to have some hobbies. But again, she is that kind of more gray character where this is a perfect place for her to kind of stand out, to assist when she assist the heroes when she can, but also kind of pursuing her own, because again, they do have her kind of flip-flop allegiances throughout the season. So she kind of is, sometimes she's on the government side, sometimes she's on Eggman's side, sometimes she's on Eggman's side, under the orders of the government, and again, it's kind of one of those funny things of like, you go back to SA2 and, if she says, oh yeah, all the emeralds on Prison Island, then we go and buy them. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go steal them and bomb the island. She's like, can we just let me take them and borrow them? No, we gotta bomb the island. Okay, we gotta bomb the island.
Well, my only other note here, my last note, based upon another of these robots that never appear again. I don't know. I want memorable robots, man. I don't remember any of these things. Like, they never come back. I want some, robots that, well, then again, I guess Archie and a lot of IDW use robots. Well, no. IDW uses robots that you remember, at least. Archie uses a lot of robots because probably they just said, I don't know, we need an antagonist. Just make him a big robot thing with an eye. Or this thing.
I would make that counter argument.
Okay.
I don't really know what robots, outside of Orbot and Cubot and Metal Sonic are really in IDW, because everything that's either been Starline or the Deadly Six or a Mimic, they've used more flesh and blood enemies. Now, they'll have the badniks here and there, but it's primarily that. I know in post reboot Archie, the Freedom Fighters did a lot of battle with a lot of other E-series robots, instead of the other ones based on the various Greek letters that we didn't see in the game. So Beta and Epsilon and Omnicron and Nu and Mu. But really, I would say pre-boot Archie, what you and I are most familiar with, they were mainly mech suits more than anything. Everything else was if it wasn't Eggman, it was Naugus or Man with Mogul or the Cybernetic Dark Legion. So it weren't really just robots and badniks. There were a lot of other people doing shenanigans.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm looking at this robot thinking, couldn't it be more Sonic-y? I'd like to remember this thing. It's sort of like how,
I don't know.
what is it? Well, like with Star Wars, right? How they make toys out of literally anything that appears in Star Wars. And mind you, I think some of these designs in Star Wars are excellent. You know, like I don't know why I need an action figure of all the extra bounty hunters that are hunting Han Solo, but they are pretty cool looking. Like that robot.
IG-88.
Yeah, that
You gotta
one.
get your IG-88. You gotta get your Bosk, and then you gotta get Boba Fett.
Dengar.
You get Dengar. Yeah, but then who's this dude in the armor that Vader's calling out? Why does he look like such a badass? His backpack's got jets. He's Boba Fett. He bounty hunt for Jabba Hutt to finance his vetch.
Okay. Neon, did you have something to say?
I was going to say, in the Japanese dub, they give the robot a whiny voice.
Yes.
And
Oh,
in
it is. Yeah.
context, I guess it makes sense, but it's like, do we really need to give it a voice? Just keep the sonic screechers. That's all you need.
Which, if you think about it, is actually a really good robot to fight Rouge, because she's got her big old bat ears.
Yeah.
I said
yeah.
ears.
Well,
get your mind out of the gutters, audience. Big old bat ears, and so sound is gonna echo her location.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what actual locations do to keep bats off property. They have ultrasonic screamers that go off to keep them off. Because bats are federally protected species, and if they roost on your property, you can't touch them.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. They probably could have set that up a bit better to where it's like they knew that Rouge was coming, so they used this particular robot. And yes, Neon is 100% correct that the noise. I mean, it definitely earns its title of Noisy, the name of the robot. Because it is jarring to listen to. I mean, they really subdue it in the dub, but yeah, in the sub. I mean, I don't know if I like it or I hate it, but it's definitely very effective. It's like, I don't know, it's like buying a can of or not a can. What do you call a spray can? What do you call it? An aerosol can or aerosol spray? Aerosol spray. They're buying like one of those aerosol spray of killing those cockroaches. Oh boy, is that thing effective! And it stinks up to high heaven. You hope that you never have to use it unless you have to. But that's what this thing is. What is it? One thing I noticed that the security robots that Eggman uses to fight Rouge and Topaz in this scene, it looks very much like the automatic weapons that Machine Gun Sally, like issue 225. If you remember that one, it makes me kind of wonder if Ian stole some of these designs, or they used some. Not Ian, I guess maybe I guess it was Tracy Yardley who drew that one.
Maybe.
But the design kind of like it makes me think of that right away. But
that's my only other note. Sonic X was made by Sega through TMS, so it's in their archives. It wouldn't surprise me if it was used as reference.
Yeah,
so it is kind of interesting that just kind of that whole TMS Sega connection. TMS is a subsidiary of Sega, but everyone complaining that like, oh, Sonic X is canon, blah blah blah. Yet if you go by what the writers have said, they can't use any of the Sonic X content or characters.
Well, maybe they can use it. They can use, like, what is it? Sonic's what's that thing called? His race car bed in the movie. They probably slip that by. They're probably trying to slip all these things by that they think Sega won't notice, because they do it a lot. It wouldn't surprise me. What's his name?
Our Sega knows, and they're just our Sega does know, and they're just it's inconsequential.
They're probably just asleep at the wheel, maybe. Because, I mean, like, I'm thinking of that one issue, was it Sonic Learns to Drive? Where there's all those little Easter eggs in there. And I think, like, the artist himself, he was saying, like, no, I didn't have permission to use Boomy. I just threw him in there. Like, Boomy the Turtle, his Sonic's potential sidekick that never got used. But Anyway, what are our reviews? My reviews on this are it's not good. It's what is it? 2.5 or no 2 handcuffs, 2 Rouge BDSM handcuffs out of 5 for me. Malzilla?
I give it, 4 polygons.
Oh, right. You said
Out of,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, you enjoyed this one. Neon.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the best one so far.
I'll give it team 3 out of 5 Rainbow Six teams.
Okay.
It's
So
a
you're
good
split
episode, but it's like
You're gonna
I'll
split
be
the
the
difference.
indifferent.
3 ascot,
Yeah.
3 ascot ties out of 5. I don't
3
know.
Ding Chavez's, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, Neon.
3, I did not have sexual relationships with that bat out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He just remind me of Bill. He's a bit heftier
Oh no,
than Bill,
he is very hefty. Well, yeah, he's very much Bill. Yes.
I thought he was supposed to be a reference to George Bush.
Oh yeah, I can kind of see
he's
that.
He's not Texan enough.
That's true. Yeah. Huh. All right. Well, Neon, I want to thank you for joining us for this review of Sonic X. I think we'll bring you back again for the maybe another episode or another
We
wrap-up.
we got about 2.5 seasons to go, so we definitely find time to bring you back for more intelligent, civilized conversation.
Yeah, as you can
yes,
tell,
of
we don't
course.
have much to say about these episodes, so especially that baseball one.
I mean, if you look,
I would say this. I think, we do find interesting angles to talk about things like, we had that nice, conversation about Lindsay and, her standing in, the media company and how that is different from, Japan versus Western. It's like, we find the content to talk about, we just, got to find the right angle to, dissect it.
Right. Neon?
I would say if you're looking for someone to guest, a good individual that's looked at the shows is the Roland Nolan on YouTube. He's doing Sonic the Abridged, which is Sonic X Abridged.
Mm.
I'm looking at this from a person who reviewed it and grew up with it, but he has a different would probably have a different point of view on it. But
Right.
it's it's interesting to go back to see these, especially the Japanese dub. I'm so glad to find it and that it hasn't been pulled from all sources. Curse you, Sonic the movie. You were good, but why? Why, Sega, did you have to finally release the 3rd season?
I don't know. I think
again,
they're just looking at the numbers, really. But yes.
I still think that's kind of crazy, and I know we've talked about it a few times, but Neon, I wanted to get your, before we wrap things up, just wanted your thoughts. Like, what is your opinion on the fact that they didn't release season 3 of Sonic X in Japan until like 2020? Is that kind of ridiculous to you, or is just kind of just the way the chili jog crumbles, or
For the longest time, I kept trying to figure out why was this the case, because people would say, "Oh, it was commissioned by 4Kids or some other company." I'm like, okay, yeah, but why does it have a Japanese dub? 4Kids did G.I. Joe Sigma 6, which is an anime, but it doesn't have a Japanese dub. So why does this season have a Japanese dub if it was commissioned? And that it comes back to the French connection, which is the French dub is apparently very close to the Japanese dub. So the only thing I can think of is by the time they made this, the broadcasters looked at the numbers and said, "We're not interested in broadcasting it. You can make the product, you can do what you want with it, but we're not touching it." And then Sega just went, "Well, it's already paid for, just put it on streaming and we'll put it into the archive until later."
Until COVID, in which we need to put something out, and then we got it, and people say, "Hey, look, we got it."
Yeah.
Officially, it was available. It's just not broadcast.
Right.
Which is
But even
really
then, I don't-
crazy if you think about it. Like, we're gonna air the world premiere of a show that's been, off the air, from 17 years ago, and in the franchise being completely different than, because again, it's one of the fun things that I find with these show reviews is, looking into the time capsule and the window of the franchise at that time, seeing like what was the franchise like, what things were good, what things things could be better, what things were worse, kind of just like where the franchise was at that time. And I'm really curious because again, they've talked about it for a while now. Haven't really heard anything about it, but there were rumors that, Sega and Paramount were going to do an animated Sonic show that was separate from the movies, kind of, and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of the future of, the Sonic television on the silver screen, because I don't think they're gonna, the last Sonic show that we're gonna have is the Knuckles show.
I'll say this about Sonic X. It was still a headline show on the CW, the Game Zone, as late as I think 2016. So Sega got their money out of this. They were airing this well past its prime. So I have a feeling. Well, no, they're not going to air it anymore. But I will say I would like to see another Sonic TV show, whether that be an anime or something else. Just Boom's good, but can we get something with a little more story to it? Prime has its issues, but I'd like to see where they can go with this just in the animated medium.
Okay. Well, I think we got to wrap it up now. Again, Neon, thanks for joining us. We'll definitely bring you back. And to our listeners, hopefully it won't be too long before we get the next set of episodes out. And stay tuned for more guest stars and Speedy Hedgehogs and crossovers and all kinds of shenanigans.
Yeah, but I guess before you go, why don't you plug your YouTube channel there, Neon, before we close this out?
Yeah, like I said, Neon the Fox 1-2. I also go by Walter, but my YouTube channel is Botluck Productions. I did a review on this, but I've got a lot of stuff. It's a wide menagerie of video game and anime reviews, mostly Saturday morning. But
all right. So basically, you can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, or X. What do you want to call it? What else are we on, Melzilla? Tumblr. Discord. Be sure to join it. Come in for our shenanigans and fun. If you have a very, very long comment to post, and I thank you. One of our commenter who's been coming in and commenting on our Sadam episodes. I do like reading them. I do want to respond to it at some point. But so until then, I'm Radrey and
I'm Malzilla.
I'm Neon the Fox.
And what are we closing out on? What's the soundbite of the week?
Let's play interesting painting.
We're talking we're talking baseball, Still the clip from The Simpsons from the baseball episode. You know the one.
Okay.
I
think I like the painting one.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's stick with this is an interesting painting.
I mean, most of this is going to be the painting.
Yeah. I really wanted to make that the thumbnail, but nobody would click on this episode. All right, then. Bye.
No blob feet.
What?
Bye.
No what?
I said no blob feet.
No blob feet. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Anyway, bye.
Well, my, this certainly is an extraordinary painting.